porn.
The streaks on my screen there also happened when I was eating cereal and I coughed at the same time, and I spit it on my computer.
Whatever you have to explain to us, we understand.
That's why there's streaks on my monitor.
Cereal
Welcome to Crippled System, episode 196.
Boom.
So apparently when like the weather gets nice and the dog's been cooped up for a while and you take him to the park. See, Guam was closed because it's
Guam?
the Quan Park.
It's
It's the
park
one right
real
by
close to here.
Yeah, well, so Quan, yeah, I know. There's that one down here.
Not close
but
to you.
the one we normally go to was closed because the Midwest horse exhibit or whatever's going on, and they have the horses living in the dog park area. And so we went to one just right over behind Hy-Vee off of Whitney, and it's more like dirt. Like it's it's not gravel, but it's like the grass is all torn up, so it's just hard dirt because it's sunny out there. And apparently she's just running and having fun, and then we're getting ready to leave, and I'm noticing that she's like limping, but not just limping a little, like maybe she pulled a muscle or something. And so we're getting in the car, and I look at her paw to see if she got something stuck in her paw, and the pads on her front paw are just flaps. They're just flapping off because she ran so energetically that she just tore the layer of skin off of both of our pads, and so she's bleeding all over inside my car. And so we had to take her to the vet, and we waited there like 2 hours because they're like, they kept coming. They're like, sorry you have to wait, but this other dog's like dying, so you're low on the totem pole. We're like, we get it. And so they just gave us antibiotics and painkillers, and we're like, keep her in a cage for 2 weeks, and her feet will fall off eventually, and then she'll grow new ones. And it's like, okay, that'll suck.
Yeah.
Do you have to get like some footy paws or something like that? So kind of like
they said you don't have to, as long as she's not licking them or anything. But we're gonna try because she's not cage trained. So instead of buying a crate and just torturing our dog for 2 weeks, we just blocked off the stairs so she wouldn't run up and down the stairs, and we're gonna put socks on her paws, and that way she can walk around and
Yeah. I was at the dog park.
it's not going to work, but it'll be entertaining. Film it.
Yeah.
it's like kitten mittens.
Yeah.
It's like, they're basically blisters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just look horrific because it's an entire surface of her pad just flapped off, and it was still hanging there and flapping around, and blood was oozing. But again, they're like, it's just a really thick skin version of a blister, so it looked horrific, but it's not.
My name is Andy.
That was my day.
My name is Brian.
My name's Nathan.
I was at the dog park last week with the Shays. It's always interesting because I work there. The dogs running around. It's always just fun when dogs run at each other. They're playing. Yeah, it was both of them.
So I know Katie was saying that they.
No, it was just Malcolm this time.
Yeah,
Arya's more challenging, I think.
Right. Yes.
Arya doesn't like other dogs or other people.
She's
bitch.
mostly in their. She's more aggressive in their own home. Outside, they're much better because they take them to the dog place to get penned all the time, and she's pretty well behaved there. But other dogs in their home is actually a problem, and they're very annoyed by it. But the dog park, you just watch so many ear dogs run back and forth, and it's always interesting watching the owners, because you have the uptight owners and the relaxed owners. Like, whatever, if my dog eats your dog or your dog eats my dog, that's what happens with dogs. Like, you have a wide range of people and cares.
Yeah.
And then we're walking, and some people have, their small children. I'm like, and I'm talking, what I love?
Yeah.
I love when people have small children around, dogs running around, because, it's so stupid to watch these idiot parents, and the parents are literally 3 feet from me, and I'm just like, I just love idiots.
The dog could just eat them.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. So when we took her to this park, when we got there was like a family, like the mom and the dad and these two kids that were probably like 5 and 7, right? And so we kept kind of leash for a while just to make sure that she would be okay with these kids, because kids kind of freak her out a little bit.
They should.
They're free. They run and jump and scream. Like, they don't behave rationally.
And they see a dog, they want to stat and grab it and all sorts of things.
Well, the thing, like, when she was kind of ignoring them, then I was just playing fetch with her ball in a different part of the park.
Yeah.
And she ran to get the ball, and she was running back, and the son just came screaming across the park to chase her.
Yeah.
And we're just like, don't fucking chase our dog, you sociopathic kid.
Yeah.
Stay away. And so we heard the daughter saying to the dad, like, why would people bring a dog to a dog park if it doesn't like kids? We're thinking, it's a fucking dog park, not a kid park. Your
Correct.
punk ass doesn't need to be here.
Yeah.
You can go to the playground, bitch. My dog belongs here.
Every time I am near a parent in a dog park, I will make a rude comment 100% of the times. And if they get, because I don't care. It's like, you're the person creating a potential situation, and the dog will be punished.
Yeah.
Your child can walk up to a dog, poke it in the eye, the dog will bite the kid, and the
dog is killed.
Yeah. and the kid will be like, don't do that again, Billy. Let's come to the dog park next week. Let's see which dog we can kill next week. Maybe I mean, unless that's like a sick family and that's like their fun game is let's kill dogs.
Let's kill dogs by having Billy get bitten.
I mean, okay, so maybe that's a thing they're doing, and okay, fine, I get it. But
I forget where it was, but Raylene saw online. She saw pictures of the signs at these dog parks.
Yeah.
It's some state where it's just banned to have kids there. Yeah. Like the dog park signs, they have do this, do that, do this, and no kids under 12.
It's
just
not
fuck off.
It's not like you take. Well, you're not supposed to. It's not like you take your dog over to a playground and let it off the leash and run around.
Yeah,
or you're not supposed to there. But
yeah, exactly.
But I mean,
kids have their play area. Dogs have their play area. We don't mix them for reasons.
Yeah. I've seen kids get in fights in the playground.
Yeah,
and not all of them are on a leash either.
Yeah.
Nope, well, they should be.
And that's our Steamroller review. Oh man, good weekend. But I was saying
we have some announcements too.
Do we have announcements?
Yeah.
There's well, you have one.
I have
and
a
then
tournament coming up.
When's your board game thing? Was it next Saturday, as in like the 6th or
You
whatever?
mean the private event that only a few people have been invited to? Yes, next Saturday is the event that I've only invited 8 or 9 people to. If you haven't got an invite from me, you're not welcome. So yes, Nathan.
What I meant to say is, when is that Cedar Rapids event? Is that next Saturday?
That is unfortunately next Saturday.
There's a Cedar Rapids
my
event.
event. My event.
What event? I'm talking about Cedar Rapids. What event?
Yeah, but 2 weeks is my thing. People aren't invited to.
Yeah.
13 days from now.
Yeah.
So
On the
next
6th.
Saturday.
On the 6th
yeah.
is when the Cedar Rapids
The 6th.
event is happening.
Well, that's Billy's fault. Well, I mean, I didn't invite him either because who the fuck would invite Billy to a fun day?
It's more so like a private birthday party thing.
Yeah.
So,
The point is, Cedar Rapids, Iowa has an event on the 6th.
Yeah, and people should. It's a good crew.
yeah, it's a very nice store that Steve's got over
Yeah,
there.
it's a good
Triple
store.
booked then, because there's that. There's an unnamed event that may or may not actually be happening, and then there's
another
me
kind-
seeing Guardians of the Galaxy 2 7 times in a row.
I'm seeing it Friday
I haven't
during the day.
I have to
some,
get
I have
tickets.
some random vacations. I just saw it in the afternoon, or got tickets for the afternoon. But yeah, I mean that movie should be great. I mean that should be seen that weekend, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to see it somehow. I don't know how, but I'm going to try it.
I played episode 1 of the Telltale Guardians of the Galaxy game. It was pretty decent.
Oh, I didn't know they had one.
Yeah, I just found out like 3-4 days ago about it because I was browsing like Steam or the PlayStation
My
Store or
only
something.
complaint about it is it's not as good as Borderlands Telltale games, but in my opinion, the Borderlands Telltale games is the best thing they've done.
Yeah.
So to say it's not as good as that is...
like
I made it through halfway the first one again,
Yeah.
like 2 days ago.
of the Borderlands one.
Yep.
Oh, but that doesn't.
I got to
It
Loader,
is-
and I had him escape, and then...
Loaderbot.
It is the...
Father, I have returned.
That Telltale episode, that whole entire series is as well written as Borderlands 2. They just
Yeah.
nailed the exact perfect dialogue from start to finish. It's brilliant.
You can buy Loaderbot a tuxedo. It's great.
You can do
It's the best fake money I've ever spent. Like, you could spend fake money on, like, tactical things, and they can get you out of puzzles, or you can just burn it, giving them either cheetah stripes or a tuxedo. And I'm like, fuck yeah, tuxedo Loaderbot.
Loaderbot.
Yeah, I smiled because, like, a few months ago, my Facebook memories thing, it popped up just me talking about Loaderbot is love, Loaderbot is life. And I'm like, damn straight. That's a good memory.
Nice. So yeah, there's a Cedar Rapids event. You have an event later in June?
June 24th, I want to say.
Then say
I
it.
should really look that up.
If you want to, just do it. Live how you want to live. You be you.
Mid-June.
That would be late.
June 24th. Yep, that's June 24th.
Rick is running a SR 2017 CID event in May.
Sure.
I think the 17th of May, or whatever the 17th-ish, whatever the Saturday is near that.
That'd be like the 20th.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, if,
No, the
if,
17th
if
is
Saturday is the 6th,
Yeah.
then another Saturday will be 14 days from
Yeah.
then, so it's either the 13th or the 20th.
13th seems more likely.
Oh, then I
it's-
won't make it because I'll be working.
Or the 14th. It's one of those. It's in May. See, that's how we tell what events. There's events coming one of these
I have
weekends.
Facebook right here. We could probably look
There's
those
a-
up.
I hope it's the 20th, because if it's the 13th, I can't make it.
That's
And
how we're going to do all
my
ATC
streak-
events. Like, the things are happening in this window. That's how all date should be for everything in Wisconsin from now on. You have a 2-week
Yeah.
window, show up, but if other people are there, you can start the tournament.
The WITC date is almost WITC is almost entirely locked down. So we're just double checking.
Are you
the
guys
outslash.
doing the talking? Are you guys doing the format you were talking about?
Oh yeah, that's 100% going to be the format.
Like
we do.
the not three commanders.
Yeah, but with the table
German
flipping
three
and
commanders.
the German 3 commanders.
Okay.
No Jews allowed.
The Germans know how to officially plan out battles.
Sure.
And
We're doing it Rommel style.
Excellent. Woohoo! Yeah. Yesterday, I went to a board game day.
I didn't get to talk about my event.
Oh yeah.
It's
in June.
charity.
It's in June.
charity
Yeah,
event.
it's a big charity event.
Since when do we ever talk about big events for months ahead of time?
Like almost never.
I refuse to do this because it would be completely non-hypocritical of me to not let you do this.
What?
Well, tell us all about it, Andy.
Oh, son of a bitch! You guys are.
The joke is I talked about my event for about a year and a half.
Yeah,
So
that is true.
That's
That
the
is
joke.
true. This event is a kind of an odd take on a Frankenstein.
Wait, an Andy event? Just an odd what?
Well,
What?
I had a local guy that really wanted to have us run a charity event, and I decided finally I'll try doing it. I didn't want to run another Who's the Boss because we're probably going to run a Who's the Boss sooner later in the summer. But so I decided to try to
Later
make
in the summer than June 24th?
Yep.
I guess June.
Technically,
I guess
June
summer goes
24th
through like
is-
August. Yeah, June's
June
almost the
just
beginning
started.
of summer.
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
third day of June event.
Yeah. So I decided to make a Frankenstein, and since the point levels in Mark III seem to be pretty, kind of reasonable, I made it so it's a Frankenstein, and if whatever you pay for to have in your army from other factions is added on to your entry fee. So entry fee is $10. Food will be provided. I'm going to be grilling out again because that's what Andy does at these events. And then let's say if you want to have like the behemoth in your Cricks list for some odd reason, you'd have to pay behemoth tax, whatever. I can't think of what behemoth prices are.
Behemoth's like 20 something, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, whatever you want to pay for
The
other
point value.
factions. I mean, you could really Frankenstein some pretty ridiculous things. Me and John Acker
And you can get in there cheap with stuff like Pain Givers or the Choir or whatever.
you
Like
buy
those
the
things.
if you're not a scorer
What's
in
Min Pain Givers? Like 3 points or something absurd?
you're gonna take the min paying givers. It's 5-7.
Okay, so yeah, $5 gets you Pain Givers in any faction.
Yeah, and Warjacks in becoming War Beasts. They
And vice
basically
versa.
Yeah. Quickly explain on Warjacks, they don't actually have a frenzy because they're constructs. They get a fury of 3 at least, and then War Beasts that turn into Warjacks themselves, they cannot be. They get power up if they have at least their spirit intact.
Question.
Yep.
Avatar in a Hordes list.
Yep. He's basically just a Warjack.
He just stays a Warjack and does
Yeah,
his thing.
'cause he's not
He
a-
doesn't turn into a beast that has nobody that can leech off of it.
Oh,
He
good
just
God.
stays a Warjack.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say he'd stay as a
There's gonna be a
Warjack.
squire. Everyone's gonna want to borrow squires. Everyone's gonna want to
like
borrow a
$2,
choir and
Mechanics.
Corollary
Yeah.
is pretty damn cheap.
yeah,
Arcanist mechanics.
like
as well.
Arcanist. Everyone's gonna want a fucking Arcanist.
The fucking Corollary in a faction that well, no, because you can't chain, but
You'll
the power up's nice.
You'll take 60 points of support and one unkillable jack. It'll be like one colossal with all support, and then whatever that colossal is just an unstoppable killing machine.
Oh, one thing to really mention too, so you don't get into like I'm going to spam everything onto the world. Everything is FA character.
That's okay. That's how Frankenstein runs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, whatever your best warcaster is, especially if they have Engine of Destruction, and then you just pay the $40 for a Prime Axiom, and you're in good shape.
Well, Engine of Destruction is itself only.
Yeah, and the Convergence Jacks have Mat and Rat equal to
Oh,
whatever
the
their
caster-
caster's
the
curse.
caster. Gotcha.
So you get your Mat 10, Rat 9, whatever
Yeah.
the fuck.
Or just having Vlad have Blood of Kings.
I who's the Boston. I got Resnick with my Convergence army once. And it was
No.
just cast Engine of Destruction and one Jack just tore Karchev in half because it was just not fair.
That's pretty hilarious.
And that's also kind of different too. So any Warjack that goes into a Convergence army will get the Mat Rat stats of the caster.
Oh, they wouldn't just keep their own?
They wouldn't keep their
I
own.
figured that the Convergence Jacks bring their rule with them because they have
Yeah.
an induction node. But the other Jacks, if Behemoth's Mat 5, Behemoth's Mat's 5. Just deal with it. He
Nope.
doesn't have X's. He doesn't have X's.
He doesn't have X's.
He doesn't
Yeah.
have X's, Andy.
That's true. All right, I might have to update my rules on there, but yeah, that makes sense. And then also, will they get their Cortex turn into induction or interface node?
I mean, if you're going to convert their Cortex to an interface node, then you probably should convert them to X's so it's a full-on thing. But
And that's kind of going. Well, then, what the other part is how do we figure out Convergence Warjacks if somebody decides to take a monitor in a Khador list.
Well, because if they stay as they are with XX, I mean, they are the treasure to buy. Like, if you have Ashlyn and stuff like that, or like I said, Engine of Destruction, but the doing induction versus power up is the decision you have to make.
Yeah. Those change over. Same thing with Brain, also changes over to whatever faction that it's going
So
into.
the Convergence Jacks would just get a Cortex, so they would power up and they wouldn't induce.
Correct.
But they would keep their XX?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then a Jack going into a Convergence army becomes an induction node, so it induces and does not power up, but it doesn't keep its stats. It'll turn to XX?
I think that's probably...
Or we just change the Cortex to induction, but they keep their Mat and Rat?
Their Mat and Rat, I think I'll probably actually... you know what, I'm just going to update it, because Convergence players play in the same... They're going to keep not keep their stats, they're going to change it XX if they go into Convergence.
Good, because I needed a flowchart there for a second.
Well, whatever... Basically, the rules I have up right now, that's what it is.
Fair.
And that's on June 24th. And like I said, it's, we're going to talk about it for a little bit.
I was all excited about the Cedar Rapids event because I had that weekend off, and I haven't had the weekend of event off in about 7 years.
I wanted to go to that
So you
event
may
as
or may not have the Rick's event off. We don't know.
It depends on if it's the 13th or 20th. Andy was looking it up, and then he stopped.
Well, Rick didn't
13th and 20th. They're on Saturdays.
They are. And one of them probably has a Rick event.
27th, I believe, is actually MomCon.
Yeah.
That continues to not be the 13th or the 20th or Rick's event.
Rick,
Correct. I don't think he actually posted anything for it.
He posted on a line somewhere in a thread saying he has an event in the middle of May,
Christ
but he didn't
almighty.
make the actual event somewhere. He just said it's happening, and he has to actually set it up. So who knows? Who knows?
He's not very helpful. I
Okay,
can text Rick right
I'll
now.
text. I'll make him do it the 20th, and he has to bring his baby lambs.
There you go.
I need to go.
That whoever has the buy can play with the baby.
And then I need to see Daniel's baby horse.
Yeah.
We need to go on a crippled system, go visit baby animals mission.
Sure. Makes sense to me.
It's an event. I don't know.
We can't really charge for it.
Is that all our events? Are we evented up?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, obviously,
It's-
there's on the
Like MomCon got the least. It's ended MomCon, whatever.
on the MomCon's happening. There's a Blood Bowl tournament happening on that Saturday, which I'm running. There's the event down in Chicago, normally on the 10th.
Also, not the 20th.
I was gonna
13th.
someone,
The 13th, yeah.
someone from Chicago.
Oh, well, then Rick's event better be the 20th if the Chicago one is the 13th.
Yeah.
Well, Chicago's always second weekend.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the point is, there's Cedar Rapids is on the 6th, Chicago's on the 13th, Momcom's on the 27th. Rick should really do his on the 20th. If he wasn't
Yeah.
planning for the 20th, he needs to move it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a good question for anyone from Chicago who is listening. I'm sure they're not viewing, but does what's his name still go to the events on locally?
Yes, he does.
Even still now. I mean, he's still.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's. Because it's like if he wouldn't go, we could probably easily get a carload. Like his presence
The
just
thing is,
keeps.
he's kind of rusty, and so he lost to Felix, I think, their last event. Or Felix won their last event, so either he lost to Felix or he lost to somebody else
I'm
before
not even
Felix
saying
even got
that.
there.
It's not even. It's not whether you win or lose to him. That's the least relevant thing. Is
Sure.
It's just him. His presence dissuades people from being there because just his personality is like, I don't want to be around that. It's like for me, I've been my last 3 weekends I've been going 100 miles an hour because work is so stressful, so I'm trying to enjoy my weekends as much as I can, and I don't want to have a whole day ruined by someone's presence.
Right.
And then, and even if I don't even have that big of a problem compared to some others, but if everyone who I would want to go with would be like, I can't handle that guy, and I'd hear about it for days.
Sure.
So even it would still, even if it doesn't bother me, it's still going to affect me.
Yeah. I mean, you live with him, so it can't be that bad.
Yeah. I don't see my roommate. Yeah.
Oh, wait, is that not who we're... I got confused for a second.
Yeah. No. But yeah, and that's just. I was just curious if he still shows up to events.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. It's
That I know for sure.
It's just a shame. I mean, it's good to have players, but sometimes if you lose one, and it's not even, I like playing against skilled players. That part's great, but man. Anyway, so I've played 2 board games now. One of which I liked a lot, which I think I think of it as an Andy game, but also a good game.
Wait, it's an indie game and it's good?
And a good game.
Do tell.
It's called Role Player.
Oh, yeah. I've heard nothing but good things.
I've played it twice now. You basically create a like D&D. It's not officially D&D, but you make a role-playing character like you would a D&D character. They have 3d6 stacks, strength, con, dex, wisdom, and the entire core game is literally going when the last stage is done. You've created a character. You have all its stats, and then based on whoever has the best stats, you get points for X amount of things. Like if you have like an 18 intelligence and you're playing a wizard, you get bonus points, and if you have certain strength scores.
But if you have like a high charisma, but you're playing a barbarian, like it's not bonus points because it doesn't jive up.
So you basically you roll. It's a lot of you're rolling dice at the beginning of turns, and you're equipping items, and each character when you pick a character, you pick a race, then you shuffle out class cards, and you shuffle out backstory cards, and you like get alignment cards out. Then you have all this dice rolling for like the core of the game, and then buying equipment, and you basically when you buy a die, if it's a high number die, you're going to have a low bid. It's like if you roll 5 dice and you have to have 1 through 5, the number 1 die is automatically going to be whoever buys that will be the first for the auction for the bidding. So it's got a kind of a fun mechanic that way.
Sure.
I've played it a couple times. It plays. I'd say it's about a half an hour or ish to play. It's really fun. It's very thematic. It just seems like a game that I would expect you to have that you don't have. There's a Kickstarter coming in, and the creator is from Wisconsin, Madison. He actually was at the game day I was at yesterday, and I had him teach.
Brett Myers?
No, it's not Brett.
Bullshit. He's the only Madisonian board game designer.
I think it's Kevin something, but
Kevin Brett Myers?
I don't know. I can't think. I was like, wait a minute. That's a ridiculous name. But nice good guy. But I just think it's a game. And then I played this other game. It's called Clank. If you ever played Clank.
Ratchet and Clank?
No, it's just Clank.
Oh, it's only half of the fun then.
No, but that's the PSP one where you just played as Clank.
Yeah. So Clank, and I didn't like Clank as much, but it was still fun. It's a deck building game, which whatever. But the thing is, the deck building is the minor part of it, because what you're really doing is you're going into a dungeon. You're going to try to steal treasure, and you have to get out. So, like, your cards are move, attack, make noise, and these kind of things. So it's like you're moving through this board, trying to get treasure and items, and then escape the dungeon. It's like
Dungeon. It sounds like it's like Dungeon Quest.
It's a little bit like Dungeon Quest, but instead of tiles and things, you basically you're building a deck and buying items, because it has it's kind of like a little like Ascension, where there's decks of things you can fight. It's a mix between like a Ascension and Dungeon Quest. But it's also a very fast game. You play maybe 45 minutes, but as soon as the first person gets out, it sets a timer, and you have cards that make noise, and every time monsters attack, you like take all these tiles.
That's the Clank aspect of it.
You clank, and then the dragon attacks, and you could die in the dungeon. And it's just a kind of a neat mechanic game. I'm like, this is another Andy game. And then I played that anachronic. I can't even pronounce it.
Anachronistic.
Anachronistic.
It's an acronym.
Anachrony, I think. It's a time traveler.
It's probably like a portmanteau of anachronism and anarchy. So it's like anachrony or something.
Yeah, it's like anachrony. The game.
I got to use portmanteau. That's a good word.
Is so much fun. I've played it. I've played it 3 times now, and it's one of my favorite newer games. I don't even own it, which is kind of hilarious. But I've played it multiple times, and we played it twice yesterday. And me and Jeremy keep trying to convince the other person to buy it, so we'll see what happens there. But I don't know. It was all-day board games.
That was a game that was introduced. That would have been introduced by Ryan, but I didn't play it.
Yeah, Ryan showed us at the board game day we had a couple weeks ago at PEG.
That was the one where we played like 3 rounds of Sushi Go in the time period it took them to explain the game.
When we explained it, like when we played it on Saturday, the first time we played it, it took about as long to explain it. Well, I was the person who owned the game left. So I was explaining it to new people. It was me, Jeremy, and 2 other guys. And I'm like, well, I kind of know how to play this game, but I've played it once, but I didn't do every element of it. So it took a while to explain. Or we read the rules and we kind of went. But when we played it the second time in the afternoon, the explanation was like maybe 15 minutes. So it was much shorter, if even that. It was 10 to 15 minutes. We just went.
Because your second time explaining a game, you know what needs to be explained. Yeah. Like you understand the import of things and the weight within the game. Yeah. Like when you just are learning it the first time, you don't know which rules matter more than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's a pretty awesome game. Yeah, so that was neat. It was like 11 hours of board games-ish.
I went to the farmer's market and then I played Diablo for like 11 hours.
You guys have the new class, right? The new character class?
Yeah, we have the necromancer. Although yesterday and today we were just playing the season. We were just playing co-op on the PlayStation.
What did they just added seasons to the PlayStation too?
Yeah, this is the first season that was on consoles.
Seasons are fun.
Seasons are a lot of fun, and man, they're the Inara's set for the monk.
Yeah.
Which when you have the full set, you have all of your chants on, and you also, instead of picking one of the 5 mystic allies, you get all 5 mystic allies. And then there's an item, the Crudest Boots, that gives you. It describes itself as giving you a second mystic ally, but it stacks, and so you have 10 mystic allies when you have the Crudest Boots on with that set. So I just have an army of dudes murdering the world, and it's great.
Nice. One other announcement: May 26th, you'll never see me again because that's when the Friday the 13th game comes out.
I'll see you when we play the Friday the 13th game.
Yeah, you'll see me in game. I'll be.
Aren't you going to MomCon?
I'm going to play. No, Friday the 13th. Vastly, there could be.
But it's almost 26th. It's not Friday the 13th.
I won't be stopping playing until every Friday the 13th. I'll be playing it nonstop.
Why?
But you don't even
Is
like
there a Friday the
13th
13th coming up?
Not at all. Yeah. So I'm gonna play like that.
I remember you saying that you don't like Jason X really.
Wait, is his skin in the game?
What?
Is Jason X skin in the game yet?
No, they have.
Why not?
One neat thing they actually 3 of the skins were voted on during the Kickstarter, and Jason X was one of the possibilities. People did not.
They got sackcloth mask though, right? Obviously.
And Tom Savini drew because obviously 9 is Jason Goes to Hell. Tom Savini drew a version of Jason if he had escaped from hell, so it's kind of like a demonish version of Jason, which is pretty awesome. It's just Jason with kind of glowing, a little bit of red tinge to him.
They could have delayed it.
Why?
It would have been better until October.
Yeah, no. People would be dead. The game was supposed to.
Maybe they'll release a DLC or something.
The fan
Jason
base,
X.
like all fan bases to everything, people have the patience of no patience, and people were like, "Why hasn't this game been released yet?" And date. So yeah, they couldn't have delayed it to October. They would have. There would have been riots, and people would be just like, I would have murdered someone because they complain so much online. But no, so that's all I'm going to play. The videos, I enjoyed the beta. I've been watching the videos, what they changed. I'm going to murder so many people. It's going to be the greatest stress reliever in the world. I'm going to practice. But that's all I have on that. That's all I have on that.
Yeah, baby.
So there's a steamroller thing.
CID. I already wrote down CID.
I love the CID in the house.
Hey, but
you don't eye the C when you do the CID. Whatever you do not eye the C.
Fair enough.
So something dropped on Wednesday, and it was a bomb.
Well, it's a contentious. 90% of the steamroller for 2017, I think, is agreed upon as being good.
I like the scenario. I played a scenario, and I lost a scenario 10-6 or 10-4. It was really close during the game. Oh, Jeremy said hello in the chat, and he was going to come by, but he didn't.
He lives 10 minutes away. He can just come.
Just drive.
I did that when he did his solo performance.
Yeah, so get in the car, Jeremy, and drive over here.
Like, zero joke.
Yes.
We'll see you in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you dumb son of a bitch.
I don't want to hook up a mic for him.
Oh, he can have 10 mine. Minutes.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed the scenario. I had a gun line, so I knew I wanted to play a gun line. I wanted to see how live the scenarios were, so I played a gun line that wouldn't really do much in the scenario. And even though I lost 10-6, there was a turn, and the game ended on the end of turn 5. At the end of turn
4,
and it ended at 5.
No, 10-4. You say 10-6.
10-4. It ended 10-4. But at the end of 4, my opponent, we were both low in miles, but he actually was played Crow. He silenced my caster, who was Rasheth.
Yeah.
And if Rasheth,
that's a good thing to do against Rasheth.
If Rasheth wanted to have been silenced, because we were both low on miles, like I was actually like he got up, and I was like every turn I was actually getting ahead of him a little bit, because Rasheth was just blowing out spells like nonsense. And if he wouldn't have silenced Rasheth, I would have actually killed a few more miles, and I probably would have gone to turn 5. Would have been like instead of 10-6, 10-4, it would have been like 8-5. And then the next turn would have been like 8-8. So I mean, it would have been it would have probably gone by turn 7. He would have had no miles left, and I probably would have had 3 miles left. But that one key moment. So even though I lost the scenario, the game was close. It felt when he scored points, it made sense. Like when I was scoring back, it made sense. There was still swinging in the way the scenario swung. It felt very natural. Like it was a very well placed scenario.
My game also that I played on Wednesday was decided by scenario. I don't know the final score because to keep track of the score. So I have one of those slidey dice things, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so what I was doing with it is just whoever was winning, I just had it facing them with however many points they were winning by, because that way I could use that. And so what happened several times was, like, if we both scored 1 point, I just didn't touch it. It didn't affect who was winning. So I don't know what I don't know if it was 16 to 10 or 6-0.
Yeah.
I just know that the winner was up by 6.
Well, I would think you know if it was 6-0.
I would know that.
You probably would know if they
because
scored.
several times both of us scored.
Yeah,
but I think it was probably around a 10-4 kind of thing. Maybe a 9-3. But the scenario was more live than I thought it would be. It was interesting, especially like being able to have something toe a zone and score a different zone and stuff like that. Is a feature, not a bug.
Not all. There's only a few scenarios can do that, right? It's not every scenario has that functionality. I don't think.
It's mainly that one.
I mean, depending on the base size,
2 or 3 of them.
like with a huge
standoff.
base.
True, I guess huge base casters could theoretically get more zones.
Yeah.
But a lot of those casters have to be in the danger zone.
Doesn't have to be a caster.
Well, yeah, because Jack, if it's a circle,
You can contest anything.
Contest.
Yeah.
So like I had one with it was just the one circle in the middle and the 2 rectangles on the side with your objectives, and so my Colossal was scoring a rectangle while towing the circle to deny the middle.
But a caster could control both.
Oh yeah,
those.
a caster could control both.
Half of the scenarios have got elements where you can hit both.
That's kind of cool.
Oh, boy,
I don't have a problem. I don't think I have a problem with that. I mean, I want to play some more. I mean, obviously, I haven't played a ton of games, and I'm going to play more this week, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Obviously, the contention item where there's a divide is the pre-measuring.
Before we go to that, just one more thing about what we're currently talking about. The one downside, I think, about the ability to do that is because you can contest anything, like the one hope, or not the one hope, but one thing that a lot of people were hoping for from this would be the addition of the circular zones would bring infantry back. Because you needed infantry to score these.
Yeah.
But like I just said, my Colossal was scoring a rectangle and towing a circle, and no infantry was ever going to kill him, so no infantry was ever going to score that circle, so infantry still didn't need to be on the table.
Gotcha. Yeah,
it is a fear.
Yeah, no, and I mean, that's a concern. If they want infantry in the game, and sometimes there's so many models that with infantry clearing abilities nowadays that it's hard to think that infantry is ever going to have a good...
I don't know if people have brought it up in the CID threads yet, but I wonder if only being able to contest things that you could score how that would affect that. Or like that circle could only be contested by infantry, so my Colossal could stand there all day long and his infantry would still score it. But that might be too much the other way, but I don't know.
It would be something to at least test out. I mean, like Max basically brought against my Ron army, I just ran a Devastator into the center there, and all I've got are battle mages. Battle mages aren't going to be able to hurt a Devastator.
It would be interesting. I don't know how good it would be, but I think it's worthy of a CID testing. I think that would be neat to test how that would happen. I mean, and also, I mean, obviously, people. I mean, the new objectives are interesting. We'll see.
Thank goodness the TEP finally got another buff because its weapons have continuous effect fire with that.
Well, yeah, but everything with AoE has that now.
Yeah, but 6 10-inch sprays.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't need
The game has so much fire and spray. I guess
it's true.
But I mean, it is true. I mean, that might be too good. I mean, if anything, it's taken down. But again, bunker is pretty amazing. If I have a Hydra in a bunker, everything near that objective is -5 range, including that bunker.
Yeah.
So suddenly you're -5.
And being able to see through your own objectives make them such great bodyguards for your
moving
warcaster.
Through an objective. Felt good.
Your bodyguard just dry humping it from behind and be able to see through, move through.
And hide from behind, then charge through when needed. Yeah, in our games we definitely were taking advantage of our objective, being able to move through to whatnot. It was really, really enjoyable.
Yeah,
but I mean, they might need to be tweaked a little bit. Who knows? I think obviously the two things that we're talking about this week were the divide and conquer.
Sure,
was talked about a lot.
Which divide and conquer is the worst. So
most people, I mean, people seem to say it's good because it forces diversity. But I don't know if we should force anything like that. I don't know. I've never been a fan of it. And with the 100 billion casters that exist, I think players need the full ability to make lists that they feel can handle the most variety without additional restrictions.
Being forced at the end of the day, when you're forced to play your other list, sucked.
Yeah,
especially if it was into a bad
horrific. Yeah, like I remember at one Gen Con when Keith was playing Crix and he just got destroyed because he had something and then more Nebra. You know, and more Nebra was good at the time and whatever, but more Nebra in Mark II was only good against living models. Like, all of her spells and everything were living model related. And so he, like, mirror matched into Cricks all 5 rounds.
Yeah.
And so he literally just never... And so then he was forced to drop her the 5th round. And it's like, oh, 0 living models. Guess my spells don't do anything, and I guess I just lose.
Attention, everybody! It's the return of Jeremy!
Yeah.
No.
Now it is.
As I was leaving, I heard Andy say, "I don't have a mic for Jeremy." I was like, "Well, that'll be awkward."
Yeah, the thing about Divide and Conquer that always has bugged me is the...
Divide and Conquer?
Yeah, well, I mean, because in Divide and Conquer, some factions have key models that are character, and some models have key models that are FA, like, 2 or whatever. So...
But that's not...
That's character restriction.
No, that's character restriction.
But
It's no longer a thing.
Divide and Conquer... Oh, yeah, because... Oh, yeah, I'm getting things confused. Because you could...
When character restriction
When
was
character
their
restriction
thing.
was a thing, it was terrible.
It was terrible, yeah. But Divide and Conquer...
But Divide and Conquer is
that's
still
true
bad
nowadays.
separately.
Yeah, because of the list. Because, no matter your list, being forced to play that second list, making the second list is fine. Yeah, but being forced to play it is the...
The thing about Divide and Conquer is it doesn't come up... It hardly ever comes up, right? Because a lot of times you bring 2 lists, you play both lists, great, no big deal. When it comes up is when you're at the top table, you have 2 guys that reach the top table because they played their best list in each matchup, they won all those games, and then one of them happened to play into both of his lists' good pairings, and one of them didn't, and that second guy just sits down at the table and loses.
Yep.
He has no play, there's no answer, no out. It happened at the Iron Gauntlet Finals. Somebody had played one of their 3 lists. I remember I was watching an Iron Gauntlet Finals game.
Oh, he couldn't play the Iron Gauntlet because he didn't have enough
He legally
models.
couldn't play. He won to get to Iron Gauntlet Finals and legally couldn't play because he'd only
didn't
been able
have
to play
enough
one of his
points,
3
yeah.
lists.
But if he would have played the list, he could have lost. So, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just absurd.
Yeah.
And maybe Iron Gauntlet will keep that format, and that'll be what's different about Iron Gauntlet, and that's fine. But as a base rule that's at every tournament you go to, it's a bad rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine to run it as an alternative. I mean, technically, Death Clock has been an alternative for the past 4 years.
Yeah, but...
And, but I mean, yeah, I think it's fine as an alternative, as an odd option, but
And you know what?
I don't.
Their big thing is, it'll make everybody bring more skew lists. But then that same person will complain about it's going to cause a lack of list diversity. If it encourages some people to bring a list they currently can't bring, isn't that more list diversity?
Yep.
By definition?
Yeah.
Because not everyone's going to bring a skew list.
Yeah. I mean,
Like, Rhett doesn't
Yeah.
really skew. I mean, both their lists are infantry, but they don't skew. Like, that's not how Rhett plays. They're not going to bring a skew list.
Arctic Circle is asking if he missed what's going to be our next topic.
Oh,
And the answer is
that's going to
no.
be so fun.
No, you
That's
haven't missed
why
that.
I came.
Jared, I gotta go.
I was like, I got to be there for this.
I have one side complaint.
Sure.
Not even it's
Before we get into the major complaint.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's not even it's the skew. Talking with skews
Yeah.
triggered something in me. So
Yeah, I'll bet it did.
Perfect Press does not want to do FA limited on models. They want to have Jax be FAU. That just seems to be their mentality. They like that.
I know.
And what happens is every time they have a new caster, someone finds a way of breaking it, whether it's Kador or whatever faction that does.
I think everybody has had some bullshit list like this in Mark
it
3.
rotates, and then they realize, oh, that was bad. They got to fix it, and they errata it. And thank them for fixing it. But because they refuse to break this cycle, and it doesn't seem that they test this. It seems like they don't test the unlimited options. Like
Their
Pagani,
test players, rightly so probably, think it's not fun to play a skew list.
Yeah,
and
but
so
their
they're never
job
gonna
as
play
test
one.
players
Yeah.
isn't to do fun things.
And
It's
I
to
agree
break
with
their
that.
game.
And I
But
think
they
Pag-
think no one's going to play something that's not fun.
and I think
You think
Pagani's
after
going to
a
help.
decade of this shit, they'd have caught on that they will.
Well,
Yes.
but look at Pagani in his first week there was testing Xerxes 2 with a bunch of like reptile hounds.
Yeah.
And things change, and that's why he didn't get the one ability. He didn't change from mobility to the one that gave plus armor, the spell.
Escort?
Escort.
Escort,
He
yeah.
escort.
Oh
And
my God, escort.
So and he realized it was too powerful, but
Yeah.
but Pagani did that, and they fixed that. So I think hopefully going forward they're going to start testing that, because now you have Kane 3.
Yeah.
When you spam these fucking
Charges.
charges with him,
Yeah.
people aren't even complaining online because it's still so new. But that is such a bullshit. You know,
PAL
The people on the
17
internet,
Chargers.
people on the internet think that Kane 3 is hot garbage, and seeing somebody. No offense to Jake, but he's not a War
C
Machine
player.
I mean, he's a fine, decent player,
and he is getting
but
better.
He
and
is
higher.
annihilating the world with
Yeah.
Kane 3. He is undefeated with this list that will make you vomit with horror because all it is Kane 3 and a shitload of Chargers, and it blows you up and you die.
Yeah.
from like 18 inches away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous thing. And again, the Kane 3 in Merc's fine.
Also, by the way, is there a competitive player on the planet who hasn't said for years, thank God they never came out with ranged synergy?
Yeah.
Like, anyone who's ever sat down with a synergy caster is like, man, this would be bananas on a ranged caster. Good thing it's not a ranged
But yeah,
spell.
so they're going
Range Synergy was only available as one of the casters from the Privateer Invitational.
yeah, the
that was
alternate
the
time.
the alternate timeline
and
one.
It was bananas
So
on
I
that
just
caster.
I hope after this iteration, whenever they fix Kane, the thing is, the problem with Kane 3 is he will annihilate a lot of factions, but he's not going to win everything because he does have some problem factions. He's not 100% great, but he's 100% great against a lot of things.
And he's not
you
going to win crap in Mercs.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
But I guess like Manoth and Sig, he won't do as well. But
Yeah.
But I mean, they're going to eventually fix them, and then I just like to see the next caster not have the same. Oh, look, this new caster, whatever. With
I'm actually mildly concerned he will be Menoth. Isn't there a new... I skimmed the content, but isn't one of the new things give magical weapons within 4 inches?
To one thing. And
I thought it was- I thought it was-
well, he
I thought
also
it was
has
more.
Mage Sight.
No, that thing's
I
been
thought it
doing it
was
for
more.
all of Mark 2.
Yeah,
But he
Okay.
has
Standard
Mage
one.
Sight. Anyway, so he can Mage Sight one section, and he can
Well,
magical
that
weapons.
has
Mage
Itself.
Sight doesn't get around the non-magical shooting restriction.
Correct. I'm
it's
talking
just a sight.
corporeal or
Oh,
something.
I got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So there are a few things that can't beat, but man, the things it beats is
Yeah.
going to auto beat.
It's going to just auto win.
So all the Signar player needs to do is have a list that can answer Protectorate, and they're good. Protectorate
Maybe
and
rat.
Kruger 2.
Maybe an all infantry rat. I don't know that the list has enough shots to deal with.
Oh,
an
It just
infantry
kills your
spammer.
Warcaster.
Yeah.
I understand that that's the problem, but if
Yeah.
you can keep the caster alive,
Yeah, and the thing is, the Signar players, a lot of them think Kane 3 is trash, even in Signar, and it's like, I don't know. When we're watching our 12-year-old kid, slaughter everyone in our meta,
yeah.
easily.
And hating every moment because he was just trying to prove to himself that Kane 3 was bad.
Yeah,
and,
he was.
and he's like, man, maybe. And he's like, man, I think I'm getting better at the game. It's like you were like, we gave him so much crap for
A
that.
Gibbon could run this list in a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we need to get Jim on the podcast, because Jim
my
has been
God.
ranting about this for a while now.
Not
Well, he's
okay.
not wrong.
But I mean,
No,
but
I know,
guess,
I know.
but because they refuse to say, because if you couldn't take unlimited chargers, he would be good.
What does a charger cost? 11?
Maybe. Yeah.
I feel like I don't have War Machine in front of me or War Room, but I feel like it costs 11. The problem with FAU is nothing. And it's never a problem if something costs 15 points or more. It's when they have these jacks that they're like, oh, they're hot garbage, so they can be 10 points or 11 points or 9 points.
Galvanizers?
Yeah, anything that they're like, oh, this is really bad, so we'll make it 10 or 11 points, and then something
or
makes
5.
something, or 5, God forbid.
Galvanizers are 5 points.
I know they are. Like,
It's absurd.
and then all it takes is one caster that's like, oh, I just do this little thing to everything in my battle group, and all of a sudden it's just stupid.
Yeah.
That was the problem with Mad Dogs. Like, Mad Dogs, in any other caster, or even just running 1 or 2 of them,
There was nothing wrong
There
with a unit of Doom Reavers.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with 2 or 3 units of Doom Reavers.
Oh,
It's
I was
10
talking
units.
I was
or the
talking
new
the-
Mad Dogs.
the new Mad
yeah, the new
Dogs.
Mad Dogs too.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them. I mean,
Yeah.
the original and the new
If
one.
they
It's
had
always been an
if they
issue.
had FAs on them, it would be. You know what? If there was like 1 or 2 powerful Mad Dogs on the table, whatever.
Sure.
But when there's like the spam of them.
So maybe the rule should be if you cost less than 15 points, they cost 9 because of course they do.
Chargers are
Maybe
9
the
points.
rule should be if they cost 10 or less, you have an automatic FA 3. Done.
or
I just solved Privateer's problem.
There's also there's the
You're
talk,
welcome.
although people would worry that people would screw up the math, but there's talk like everything's point cost is +1 per.
I don't like that because I think it's hard on new players.
It's cumbersome and it's hard on the math, but like
It works.
If everyone remembered it and understood it, it might actually fix the problem, but it's a difficult fix.
So you're saying if you have 3 chargers, it's not going to cost you.
They cost 9, 10,
9, 10, 11,
Sure.
12, 13.
It's
So
still, I mean, yes and no. I guess it's. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it's.
It's something that's been talked about on the forum a lot.
yeah,
lately.
people have talked about that one a lot. It's just each additional one costs 1 more. Because there's a point where you're like, well, charger's good, but this other jack costs 13 points. And that one's actually better at that point. It's kind of like playing Out of Theme, where it's like, yeah, Gorman the Wolf is a good model, but is he a 16-point model? Because you're losing 12 points of free stuff. Yeah. It's the same sliding scale as the theory. Again, I'm not saying that I'm necessarily a proponent of it or think it would fix it, but people have thrown it out there, and it's not the dumbest thing I've heard.
I have one more side tangent before we get to our actual.
God.
Well, this is minor.
The longer you can put it off, the better.
Yeah, the better. We're building suspense for the audience.
I don't think there's any suspense.
On Wednesday, I played my first game where I just used War Room. I didn't use. I had no cards. I was
nice.
tracking everything, and it actually went much easier than I thought it would.
Your first one went well? Because my first one was a train wreck.
Well, I mean, did you use an iPad?
Yeah.
I actually.
Was it War Room 2?
It was War Room 2. But the first time I played all War Room, it was War Room 2.
So it was in Mark 3?
And it was in Mark 3.
Oh.
But I will admit that I was also rusty at the time because I'd taken like a month break, not as long as the break I just took.
And on a tablet, it's so clean and easy.
But it is good. It took me. I had to get used to it again
because how you can track if you have to jump between jack slot, it's still a pain. And if you have a lot of the same jacks, I wish you could. I think Andy said this, and other people have said it too. It's like I wish you could clearly identify the jack. If you have a bigger
which
number,
jack it is,
like a big one in front of the picture, like a big obvious
Color.
1 or 2 or
There's no reason to put it.
I mean, they have it on the main army list. They have 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, but
it's not the
it
same.
should
Not
be
huge,
bigger
yeah.
because it's
And
pretty
if you
critical.
misclick, it's really hard to tell you.
Yes.
But if someone's attacking your same jack with multiple attacks,
It's great.
There are so many easy ways of getting that damage in there instantaneously, and
And the feature where you can promote unit leaders in multi-wound infantry.
Yep.
I don't know if you've had. If you
cool.
have some like multi-wound infantry and you have like 3 damage to guy C, and guy A is the leader, okay? And have 3 damage to guy C, and then the leader dies.
Yeah.
There's a little promote button. You click the promote button next to guy C. He becomes A with the 3 damage still on him.
All right.
And remember
That's
to
actually
So if
bad
you know the model.
Well, it's bad for me because my C though I live with mine A, B, C in the base, and if C becomes A, I'll be fucked.
Well, you replace him with the leader model.
Oh, I see.
And the leader model is model A.
Sure.
And so that model A, now has 3 damage on it because guy C, who became guy A, had 3 damage on it.
All right, gotcha.
That's the whole point of it.
There are people that will complain that maybe it causes like minimal, like millimeters of table infraction, but I think it's amazing for 2 things. 1, that it does that.
Yeah.
And 2, I want to replace my leader models a lot of times.
Well, yeah, you have to by rules of the game.
You're supposed. Well, yeah, you are supposed to. But I know a lot of people that don't because they don't want to mess with table state. But then but then you get into this thing where you're like, which one of your guys is the leader?
Yeah.
Like 2 turns later. Like,
Yeah,
it's just a mess.
if you wait, then you have an opportunity to put him in the most viable place.
Exactly.
And that's not right.
At the very least, if you're not going to promote with the model, you need to have a clear token that says this is my leader.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. You need a visual indicator on the table.
And I've done this, and I've seen people do it too. You pull up your leader, and you look down, and 5 minutes later, go, I don't want my leader's over there. Oops. Like you just let us roll a die.
Yeah.
I guess my whole unit's out of formation. That was fun.
But that's
Well, you can check whether they're out of formation by using a handy widget, which is 80 feet of string with 47 different size bases on it, and like 7 or 8 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, 7-inch, 8-inch, 9-inch, and 10-inch widgets. But this one string with those 153 pieces of plastic is a single device. So you can just set that on the table, and you're okay. Because you have one
I know
device
you
on
don't.
the table.
You might not go to 5 fingers anymore.
No, God, no.
But the 5 fingers guys, one of them already was talking about a flexible metal snake with cloud wall sized markers on it that he already has used in tournaments.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
David called out putting a 5-inch template of putting down a 5-inch colossal base, but that colossal base is basically clear, which has bunches of other bases on top of it. So it's like it's one device, but it's pre-marked with all other sorts of things.
Well, yeah, no, that's like a rotational, just a whole bunch of circles that are, if they're connected, and yeah, this is my wall. This is where my client was going to be. It's one thing.
okay,
We need like it's ready for the main event.
All right. So which is worse, this rule
well, yes.
or Jason Soul's public Discord?
Oh my god,
Jason Soul.
He's a nice guy. He
He
really
is.
is.
But
I've talked
oh my
to him
God,
personally,
dude,
it's
stay
great,
off the
but
forum.
Stay off the forums. Let your public let the Wills and Pagani.
I will admit the Wills occasionally stumble, but they're good about like saying, "Oh my bad."
Ship,
I
Pagani, and
misspoke."
Hungerford are way better.
They're way better at that than Souls is.
Souls is okay when they're just having a back and forth talking about rules, but yeah, he should not be able to put opinions forward or interact just as comments. Like he should.
I think the game should be fun and have no rules, be hard to play. Jason Souls.
If you measure threat ranges, you're a monster, and you should not play my game.
I think people on all sides of the arguments like Souls, please don't talk.
Oh yeah,
no one. You're
won.
making it all worse.
You're hurting us all.
We're all losing now. We've all lost.
I feel for the Wills.
I have to think
because they got to be sitting there like, well, I can't tell
Pagani
him
and
he's
Will
wrong.
are like Jesus Christ.
They're these firefighters. They're these firefighters, and he's running up with gasoline. I's helping, and throwing it on the house.
I have to imagine someone walked through his computer and just punched his monitor. So I don't know, your computer's broke. You can go home for the day. Like I just have to imagine something happened to stop him because he definitely.
Oh my god.
The community, so first of all, there's a lot of sides to this, and a lot of people are having very rational discussions. And then Souls made it. He turned it to 11. So congratulations to turning the discussion to like awfulness.
Oh my god.
So let me rant for a second.
All right, yeah. All right.
And
We'll take turns ranting.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because we all have slightly different points.
Why CID if you're not going to eye the C?
Yeah.
That's my rant.
Well,
Why
that's
CID if you're not going to eye the C?
Well, anyway.
do yours.
Yeah, let me
Let me. My point of I think that I wish everyone agrees pre-measuring is great. Everyone likes to use proxy bases. Everyone likes to measure things that are right. If I move a model from 10 inches and I have to wind through models to avoid free strikes, or if I'm charging it, I want to make sure it's a close charge and I get there without hitting free strikes. I want to be able to put down as many bases and widgets and devices for my one model. I don't like how they initially worded one device, one. They could have simply just said when moving I think personally that when one model is activating, you should be able to do unlimited things to measure that one model from point A to point B. Any kind of widgets, any kind of measuring tools, any kind of things. And I also think when measuring things, if you have this, like Nathan was joking, this 74 widget long thing that you put on the table that does 1,000 other things, we set you on fire. It's kind of like back when Mark II had problems where we had feet that lasted forever. You had all these little gimmicky things that just didn't work, and people knew that wasn't the intent. But I think you should be able to pre-measure, you should be able to proxy base as much as is needed to get model from point A to point B. I want all charges to be known. I want to make sure when someone's charging, they know if they're going to be able to get past any kind of free strike. I want that player to have all the information, both players to agree before that model's moved, and then once it's all figured out, it gets from point A to point B. And all the wording they're doing is like, well, this you can put one of this and one of this and one of this is a little ridiculous. And I know they're trying to be careful on the wording, because people are trying to exploit things to the most extreme, and it's frustrating. And I do agree with their mentality is they don't like the idea. I played War Machine pretty strong the first 6 months it came out. Then when I heard score, has 25 plus proxy bases down and just annihilates me, and I'm just like, why did that did not feel like I did not feel like I was playing War Machine. I was playing a game, but it was not War Machine. It was something else, and maybe that.
Apparently, we just lost our sound.
Oh.
I'm just saying, Brian might want to hold the rant a second.
No, I just go keep talking.
All
They
right.
can't hear us.
I know.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
Well,
All right.
okay.
So I'll start off. But anyway, so yeah, it's just
Oh, it's coming back. That's good.
I just feel that a person, and I even think it maybe, and I'm not even 100% certain. Maybe if a unit activates, they can even put more models down for like the current
Okay,
unit.
wait. I need to slowly step in here.
Sure.
I think that we need to be careful what we talk about with activation, and I think that there should be different rules between a unit and a single model thing. I feel strongly about that. I don't want to derail your whole thing, but
the
I
issue
think
is you're not
that-
always proxying the thing that's currently activated.
That's the problem. In fact, that's the profanity problem.
Yeah.
Is that crap?
When I am moving my arc node, and I need to see if he'll be in control area of my caster after my caster moves or TK. Like, I might need to check other things. You know, I might be moving my Jack, and I need to know if if where I'm trying to move him is going to be where my mechanics can get base to base with him later, and I might want to proxy that stuff. Like, they say pre-measure whatever you want. They said go wild, right? And now they're saying, but oh no, not like that. And they're taking it back. And all the restrictions, none of the restrictions... I completely understand what you're describing as a boogeyman. I don't think it comes up as
Although
often.
no listener heard it, so...
That's fine. No,
I've played
they heard it. They know. Like the people who literally play their turn twice because they put out all their proxies and they move every activation with proxies and then they do their whole turn. I understand that. I think it's rarer than people claim it is. But whatever. I understand if it's a bad experience, and I completely understand wanting to get rid of it. The problem is there is zero way to phrase this rule that eliminates that situation without fucking over normal, legitimate, rational, day-to-day, valid gameplay usage of proxies. It's impossible to do this.
How many times are you going to want to... I mean, and this is an honest question. I'm not trying to be sarcastic here, but how many times, if you're activating model... If I want to activate this Jack... So you basically saying if I'm gonna, so you're saying you want your Jack to walk forward and shoot, but you want to make sure where it stops shooting, you can then stop your mechanic near it to fix that.
So that's my example because I could just measure from the Jack's proxy, and I get that. So a good example that people have used is if I want to check if I can TK my Stormclad, and then from that TK position he can charge without clipping another model to get one of your guys, okay? That requires a proxy base on the TK ending point, and it requires a proxy base at the charge ending point so that I can laser line and make sure that has a clear charge lane.
And that's all
That's two proxy bases during my caster's activation about that Stormclad. So number one, it's not her activation, or it's not the Stormclad's activation. Number two, it's two bases, not one, so it's illegal. And that's a valid fucking thing to check.
Well, I don't like the one, even if you're the one base thing.
The one base rule is dumb.
Even if you're doing one model, I think one model moving might need multiple proxy bases. So I'm not a fan of the
Frequently
one. I'm not a fan of the one proxy base rule.
But this is during a different thing's activation, and I don't think this is an abused thing. You know.
And even if something like I don't have and what you described, I don't have a problem with that too.
But how do you make that legal and make your and that's my thing about it is like I understand, and if there was a magic wand you could wave that just say guys don't play your turn twice, that's fine. But the issue is this isn't a gameplay mechanical issue, it's a sportsmanship issue. And the example I used is be nice to your opponent. Right? That's something that you should be nice to your opponent. Now, I want you, in black and white text, legalese, airtight rules, write down how to be nice to somebody. And tell me what my vocal inflection should be. Tell me what terminology I should use. Tell me the gestures I should use. You can't fucking rules codify sportsmanship. It's impossible.
James Morehouse did... at the end of his idea of a rulebook, he did use the suggestion of also don't be a cunt, which I think is a pretty great advice.
But can you explain to me what that means?
Nathan, on an average day,
don't act like me.
Don't act like Nathan.
No,
done.
You know, and Arctic Circle in the chat says proxy things only relevant to the current activation. Well, what's relevant? Like, what counts as relevant? Like, if I want Haley 3 to move up to where the back of the cloud wall is going to be, can I proxy all of my trenchers? Because that's relevant.
Okay, that's where I have to jump in. Because
that's relevant.
It is, but I actually played against this, and here's the problem. So, I played an opponent who did he was playing Haley 3, because Haley, like, I feel like in this argument, nobody wants to just come out and say it.
It's Signar. It's Signar 90% of the time.
90% of the time, and it's trenchers. Because it's the trencher cloud wall.
Well, they're a big part of it. It's
okay,
Signar.
But it's that kind of thing.
There are other things,
but
it's almost always trenchers. Whenever somebody has like so I played against Haley 3 with a trencher cloud wall, and my opponent played his whole turn. Here's the problem.
I've been running into it with because with Destruction Initiative, I have so many arc nodes, or not arc nodes, excuse me, shield guards. Before I move all those solos, I want to proxy out all my jacks so I can measure 3 inches from all of them. But anyway, go on with your thing.
So there's that. So I'm playing against a local opponent who's a good player, who's a clean player. I think this player was truly doing their best to play clean. However, what they did was they said, okay, I'm going to measure where each of my trenchers can walk up to and on a place of cloud rings. And we agreed that all the trenchers could get there, and he put down his cloud rings. And I said, yep, great. He said, now I want to move up a jack. I'm going to move up several jacks, and they're going to take position behind where the cloud wall is going to be, and they're going to shoot at all your stuff. And I looked at where he measured the jacks, and I looked at where people were standing. And I said, yep, that's fair. All the jacks can legally reach those locations, and then they can shoot. And he said, okay, great. Now I want to move up on a unit of infantry to also be immediately behind the cloud wall, but not stepping where the jacks are going to be. But for whatever reason, that unit of infantry needed to activate before the jacks or the cloud wall.
Right, because he needed to the jacks need to come up behind the infantry, but still have the cloud wall not there. So
Yep.
it needed to be that unit, then the jacks, then the cloud wall. Yeah,
And,
sure.
and all that's clear. And I was like, great, yep, you've measured it. All that stuff looks legal. He's like, all right, so would you agree I can just replace all these proxy bases? And I said, no. Tell me which order you're going to activate things in. He said, okay, well, I move up this unit of infantry. I said, okay, so that's legal. They legally can reach their proxy bases. You just measured that. He's like, okay, now I move up my jacks to shoot. And I said, excellent. Which infantry are they teleporting through? Because you just put infantry in the way of the path you pre-measured.
Sure.
The jacks legally could have walked there before that infantry was there.
Yeah, that's fine.
And you measured the infantry after the jacks, so I couldn't tell you that they were... He's literally trying to walk through infantry that are there now.
Yeah.
That's not
But
legal.
you can't. Correct. So he
And
does
so
it.
he was like, but you pre-measured and you agreed, so I get to move on but shooting you now. And I said, no.
The distance was there, but
But
the
no,
order of
you
activation
don't.
still
And
matters.
also, by the way, you just blocked all your trenchers from getting forward to put down the cloud wall.
Sure.
And he's like, no, but I measured it legally. And I was like, no, you didn't. Everything you ordered, if you had activated in the order that you measured...
Yeah.
We have
I mean,
no problem.
That's unrelated. I mean, that's...
No, it's
No,
not
it's
because
not
this
unrelated.
is a strong local player that I'm talking about. I'm not going to throw out names, but you know this player.
Okay.
And I've seen it happen at tournaments, too, since pre-measuring became a thing, where we all agreed that everything I did was legal, and then I'm going to just kind of like push everything forward to where it's
I've
supposed
never
to be.
seen that. That should not fly.
It shouldn't.
Because
but you just-
pre-measuring's a measure. It's still like models can't move through each other magically because of that.
Right. And just because you screwed up your order of activation doesn't mean I get punished. So that's one problem. And that is a problem. But the other problem is it's really frustrating to watch someone play an entire turn, which is an actual, like, as opposed to you're cheating thing, it's just a gameplay and experience problem. And the problem with that is I have no problem with you using 30,000 widgets as long as all of them get picked up the moment you activate one infantry unit or one model. The problem is nobody wants that because of the situation you're talking about where it's like, but I need to know where everything is because I need to know exactly where everything is so it's within 2 inches. The problem is then we're playing chess. Then we're playing on a grid.
How's that a problem?
In Mark,
Because that's not the game of War Machine.
Yeah,
If you can activate your stuff perfectly and put them all where you intend to put them, great. Activate one thing at a time perfectly. Don't pre-measure your whole army and then say, okay, now they're all just moving to these places.
It's
Because
not
that's not the game we're playing.
it doesn't feel like a
We're not-
miniature game.
It's
to
like a
me.
video game. Like at that point, you're playing a video game.
It's everything but a miniature game.
Yeah, and I agree
Right,
that
but
not everyone has a problem with that.
No, so the thing that you're saying, and here's the problem, is pre-measuring is not then also the measuring. Like, you need to pre-measure, and you can mark your tokens, but then when it comes time to activate the models, you need to fucking actually then move
Well, I'm
them
saying there's two
legitimately.
different things. So there's the first problem where
Because in both of your examples, the people are then using those proxies to say, well, we know this guy goes there and just moving it.
no, I think I misspoke. In the second case, you really can move them there as long as you activate everything perfectly.
So what's the problem?
Because that's not the game we're playing. We're playing a miniature game.
If someone, so option A,
So
Because
why is that not part of a miniature game?
Because that's not how that's how video games play. That's how
No,
chess is
how
played.
is that not how a miniature game is played?
so in a normal like War
How is
Machine-
measuring the 10 inches and then saying, okay, now this guy's moving that 10 inches? Where in that is not
That's
a video?
great. Now I want you to move that. Now remove all your proxy bases. Now move the next thing.
Why?
Because
And
that's,
don't just say because that's how miniatures games
no,
are.
because that's
Like,
my point. That's the problem here with Widgetgate is that's legitimately a frustrating thing to play against. It makes anyone who's fast with their widgets and has more widgets than their opponent able to play a more perfect game of War Machine. And that's not what, in my opinion, that's not what War Machine is about. Not even at top players. Because I watch top players make mistakes.
If a caster wants to walk forward and be behind that smoke cloud, in my opinion, they need to either know that the smoke cloud needs to get put down first so they can go there, or they need to go, okay, well, I need to go about... So they just need to know where it's supposed to be. If they walk there 6 inches forward, they better just not fuck up and go too far.
But then you just have to ban pre-measuring. Because theoretically, you can measure everything constantly all the time, and so a widget is just a way to make it easier for both players. I can move my caster a millionth of an inch, measure every single trencher 6 inches, move my caster another millionth of an inch, measure every trencher 6 inches, and I can do that shit. Or I can just put down a fucking proxy base and we can get on with our lives. And why is the second one of those so horrifically offensive compared to the first one?
If it was just your caster and 1 unit of cloud wall, great.
Okay.
I'm saying it's
Caster
100
Squire
points.
and
It's
Cloud Wall.
100 points of models.
So is Caster Squire Quad Wall okay?
No, it's
So
not.
it's literally just I can. So this is the rule we're going to put in the CID here.
And this is
so
why
you
you
can
can't put it
measure
in the CID.
just your caster.
This is why you can't put it in the CID.
Why does it piss you off if I also measure my Squire?
Because that's the point. Is the person who wants to have all the pre-measurements and all the widgets? This is their argument, right? It's okay for me to move 1 unit. Yes. Well, why can't I move my 1 unit and my caster? Okay, that's fair too. And then I want to move my 1 unit and my caster and my Squire. Well, that's fair. Well, also I need to move this arc node. All right. Well, that seems reasonable. And also, all of a sudden, I need to move all 100 of my points and pre-measure everything. And that's not the game we're playing. It's just not.
Well,
and
it
it's
is.
Not,
As of Mark III, it is. Because that Mark III introduced pre-measurement.
and that is how the competitive War Machine community interpreted you may pre-measure anything at
Because as
any
soon as
time.
Privateer, that's why Privateer is like, whoa. They're like, that's not what we envisioned.
And it's not just not what they envision. It's not what a lot of players enjoy playing into. And the thing is, if 2 people at a tournament do what you're talking about and pre-measure their whole turn, and no one else does, those are the 2 people that are going to play at the finals table. Because at the end of the day, War Machine is... Assuming you're not an idiot in list construction, and assuming you're not an idiot at list selection, it is a game of precision. If you're a more precise player, if you perfectly measure all your threat ranges, and you're not an idiot, and your opponent messes up some of their threat ranges, you just win the game. End of story. That's the game of War Machine, and you've just outsourced that game to proxy bases.
In 10 years of playing War Machine, outside of individual broken casters that were kind of questionably fun to play against, when I played that game and there were 25 plus proxy bases against me, I never had less fun. That was the least fun experience I had. And that wasn't even a great list versus me. It was just that experience of all those bases.
And that's my point. And that's the thing that's getting lost in the CID thread is it's competitive players talking to competitive players. And I get that because non-competitive players, frankly, are never going to bother to log into CID.
But Nathan is right that if you want to do limited things, how do you write a rule that says you can do a couple little things without it turning into a big thing? Because I do feel like even as example of I think even if you're playing a caster and you want to TK a model and measures charge range, that's like 1 or 2 proxy bases, 1 or 2 models. That's like a very limited. It's not a whole army doing a whole turn and then activating things. That's just.
I mean, but what about TK, then a whip snap, then a charge?
Well, see,
you know,
that's the thing. That's the problem. Is it's a very reasonable escalation from I'm going to allow one thing and be reasonable, and it's like, well, this is reasonable, and suddenly you're proxying 100 points.
Also,
no
talk
2
about
people are going to
competitive
be
player. Like at Adepticon, watching the Iron Gauntlet, watching the Masters, watching these things, I did not see proxy paloozas.
And
I saw, here's my Colossal, he's got a 12-inch threat range, all right, I'm going to measure this guy, and there's 12.1, I'm going to measure this guy, there's 12.1. I didn't see proxy palooza at the top tables. And I think one guy per meta, who's not actually that good, does this shit.
Keith is the one who did it to me. He's
the one that illegally tried to move his things against me, for the record. And I would say that Keith is one of the better players I know.
Hey, he's rusty.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's not untrue, but at the end of the day, the problem I have with Proxy Palooza, if we're going to call it that, is
it went from Widget Palooza to Proxy Palooza.
Went from Widget Gate.
Widget Gate to Proxy Palooza, because it depends which side of the argument you're on, right? Pro-life, pro-death.
Sure. Widget Gate is the debate that's happening. Proxy Palooza is the situation of this happening in a game.
So the problem with Proxy Palooza, and here's the thing, is at the end of the day, as a competitive person and competitively minded person, I can tell you that right now, if they don't do something about Proxy Palooza, not only is it not fun to play against, that part bothers me a little bit, but whatever, in a year and a half, every single top 10 player at a tournament is going to be doing it, because otherwise they won't be a top 10 player because they will just not be as accurate as their opponent.
How long has Mark III been out?
Mark III came out
a year ago.
Less than a year.
Less than a year, because it came out in October.
Well, the top players aren't doing it now.
And I'm saying a year and a half from now, because the thing is, the meta is always evolving.
The top players already know how to do this. Like the top players are already using it as much as they need to, and they don't need.
It depends on the list.
A lot of top players don't have to do it all. Like some of them just need to know some basic things, and sometimes it's just putting a bunch of beads. It's not even proxy, because we haven't.
And they said beads were legal.
Because that's the thing
for
too.
the record in the CID
That's
thread.
the weird thing is because if you want to know your opponents, you can go bead fucking crazy too if you want to figure out things. And suddenly now there's 8,000 beads on the table because you're
Well, I'm planning to bring I mean, I
someone's
play a
got,
ranged army. I plan to bring beads to my next tournament because I need to know where can you run to, where can you charge to. Great. I now know exactly
when
where my
I see
ranged
two
unit needs to
melee
sit.
armies fighting each other, they each of them put beads across the table so they know the opponent's threat range. So they each time they activate, they're always like just outside the bead line.
And the thing is, I get that it's really frustrating. In Mark II, it was super frustrating for me as someone who's utterly shitty at eyeballing distances to be like, well, I want to be outside of 12 inches of this guy. I can do some Pythagorean math, and I think I'm probably outside of 12 inches. I can eyeball, and I think I'm outside of 12 inches. Fuck it, I'll just back off a half extra inch. I know I'm safe. Great, end of story. But I'm losing that half inch. And a half inch, and a half inch, and a half inch, and a half inch over the course of the game loses you games.
Right. So I think here's the big difference in mindset is, you talked about this and proxying 50 things, blah, blah, and you said with disparaging tone to your finale, and well, then it's just chess. And in my mind, awesome. I'm so happy that the game has gotten to the point where it is as clean and unquestionable in the movement and positioning as chess. Thank God.
If I
But
wanted
if
to
that's
play,
true, then there will be definitively good and bad casters, and there will be no reason to play other ones. Because if the game is chess, as opposed to there being any, for lack of a better term, fog of war on the table, there are casters that are better than others, there are units that are better than others, and there are models that are better than others. Because in a perfectly precise game, that is how it works.
Well,
A knight is always better than a pawn. Full stop in chess.
Sure.
And we will get
But
to
they
the
have
point where that will be the
values.
case in War Machine.
But they have values to them.
And
for that reason.
And so all that'll happen is as soon as Privateer Press prints a model where its point value is off by this, it'll just be like, oh, that's the only list you can play in.
Well, sure. That's why they get adjusted. I mean, that's how Hearthstone works. That's how errata work in this already. Like, that's already the ad set. I mean, it's not the ability to place a proxy down that makes trenchers better than,
But
another
it is.
unit.
It is because the list that we're talking about where you use tons of proxies are lists where the power of the caster is arguably stronger than any other caster, but they are harder to operate. And we've talked about this before, where there's like the ease of entry for using a model, and then there's the ceiling for how good it can be. If you can just hit the ceiling for every model you use, it completely invalidates a lot of things that have an easy use but a lower ceiling.
Sure, but I think Arctic Circle is making the same point that I'm going to make, which is that the ability to know where your model's being placed isn't what makes a caster easier or harder to operate. Being able to pre-measure all of my models isn't what makes me better with Arcadius than somebody who's bad with Arcadius. It's knowing where I should be putting those tokens because where I want things to be, not checking if I can accurately do it.
It's both.
things are good.
I think it's both. I think both are important.
Sure, but I don't think that the strength, the usability lies in knowing what you need to do, not in executing it right. I think
that's just I don't even know that you're wrong. I think that's just where we disagree.
Sure.
I mean, end of the day, like I said, I think we need to be allowed something, and I think the gray area is going to be hard to figure out. All I know is I played War Machine the last couple weeks, and I had a lot of fun.
Sure.
And I'm excited to play more War Machine. But if my opponent wants to put those 25 bases, I'm just going to say you win the game. I'm done. It's such a negative experience. I don't want a part of it at all. And I can't like
there
that.
have always been. I mean, I think there is always a boogeyman that comes up once a tournament that you don't want to be involved in that makes you not enjoy the game, and always has been and always will be in every game you ever play ever, whether it be War Machine or Magic or Hearthstone or Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar. There's always going to be a situation that game allows that will ruin your enjoyment of the game. And if Proxypalooza is it in War Machine, it is, but trying to get rid of it is just going to... You're rototilling your garden because of a weed, and it's not worth the destruction.
But the difference is, every game, like even the day one, even when someone's at their height of enjoying the game, there's things you don't like. But saying, you know what, I don't like... You know what, Haley 2 bugs me, I don't like playing against her. It's annoying. That's a thing I don't like. But saying when my opponent has 25 models on the table, I would rather be punched in the face by Muhammad Ali. Like I would just rather want anything else.
Right
Mike
now, he
Tyson.
won't hit you very hard.
Well, I mean that's why it'd be okay now. I mean in
Like
general. You know.
Yeah, but some people feel that horribly about having to face a gasp unpainted army, you know, or some people. I mean, it's.
But that's like an army. I mean, but these are like how the game can be played. If it's a, I don't know. It's just
Okay, let me ask you.
I understand that. I'm not, like I said, my point is never going to be that it's enjoyable to play against somebody playing their turn twice with 100 proxies.
No, I will say I definitely agree on the if someone's going to do that, making them just because they put down 50 proxies
Doesn't mean they get to just freely
can't
move
move
everything.
those
No.
models. They have to like.
They
And
still
I
have
think,
to activate
I
an
think they
order.
have to understand that because that's definitely the truth. It's like, well, now these 50 models here. Well, now you're measuring every single one in the proper order.
Because that's number one, how you make sure they don't fuck up the order of activation like Jeremy was. And number two, people are talking about, and then they lose track. And I thought these proxies were trenchers, but then their long gunners teleport to them, and I didn't think the long gunners can get there. Well, did he measure the long gunners advance when he moved
Yeah.
it? If not, that's
Or
your
like the guy
fucking
that
fault for not
pre-measures
making
the
it.
arc node you're talking about. He moves his arc node, and then he's like, all right. And then I cast a spell, and you're like, okay, that's great.
You're out of
through
control
what?
area.
You're not
Yeah.
in control
Yeah.
area. You didn't
You
move
forgot to
yet.
move your cast first. Exactly.
And they're like, oh, well, you know I meant to move him. And then that's really frustrating.
Sure.
Because you let me pre-measure, and we talked about it,
Yeah,
right?
and
you
you
gotta
measured
be-
that he could get there.
And
Yeah.
he could. So
He could.
I
But he
guess,
didn't.
he didn't. So I guess he's throwing away
I mean,
focus.
in my
That was
mind,
fun.
if I think it's someone they throw it on 20 proxy basis, I'm honestly, if it's one model and we're trying to navigate through charge lanes, I'm going to pay attention to make sure everything is accurate. But if he's throwing out his entire turn, I'm going to completely ignore everything he's doing.
Yep.
Because until he's moving actual models, I'm not going to give a rat's ass.
And if everybody did it that way, I think that people would be bothered by it a lot less. Because as long as you hold them to the actual execution, all that proxy placing is no different than what it was in Mark II, where somebody could stare at the board for a half an hour
Right.
doing the math in their head. If they use proxies to help them, that's fine. But as long as you then, when it's time to execute, go, all right, well, you measure that fucker and make sure that we measured right, and now he's there, great, lift the proxy, put him there.
Well, with the
and I don't care
proxies-
if you leave the other 30 proxies there, as long as each thing you move and do, you re-verify.
And that's hard because it gets into something I think we've even talked about on the podcast months ago when I used to be on here regularly about certain players that consider themselves top tier players, whether they are or not. They consider themselves top tier players, running over their opponents and doing things and saying, "Oh, well, you just don't understand. This is legal, but you're just going to take my word for it." And doing things quickly, and the proxies make it worse.
I mean, those people are always going to be like that, no matter what. They're always going to run.
whether
into their
whether
opponent.
it's a proxy or whether it's
and it's on them. And honestly, if the people are that kind of person, they're not going to change. So it's on you to make sure you proxy or
You
no
call
proxy,
them on it.
you call them out and you hold them on that.
And the problem is, I call them out and you call them out, but they just beat 3 rounds of
Sure.
players that should have probably beat them by 1 or 2 things that they slipped through
Nothing
the
Yeah,
cracks.
but
bugs
they're going
me
to do that without
more-
the proxies.
yeah.
They're going to always bully them.
I know. It's just annoying.
Bullies
that
are gonna
it
bully.
It annoys me that it feeds into it.
You take away a bully's weapon, they're going to use a different weapon. Like if they can't give wedgies, they'll give swirlies. It's always going to happen.
You would know
and,
about
and my
that.
point, oh yeah, my point is like as long as you hold them to the execution, it's just the same as a half hour of think tanking.
Except
except
it's really
you-
hard to hold on to the execution because they're like, I just spent 20 minutes pre-measuring this. I don't want to spend 20 minutes more proving to you that these are legal measurements.
Too bad.
And and that's my
Then-
problem is most people are going to say you're the jackass for making them spend twice as long when they just spent 20 minutes measuring it.
They should have measured that one unit, proxied it out, then moved that unit,
and
then
that's why I
proxied
think
out,
that should
and
be
then
the
move that
damn
unit.
rule.
If it doesn't need to be a rule, if doing it that way is the most efficient way. If they want to proxy everything and then do everything and it takes them 40 minutes instead of 20 minutes, that's their fucking choice. You don't need a rule that forces them to do it the efficient way. If they choose to be inefficient, they should be allowed to be inefficient.
I think that they're going to be. I think that it's going to ruin enjoyment for a lot of players. If you have 30 people and 2 people are doing that all day and shoving it through because most people are going to be too nice to say anything, then
then
they're
don't be
gonna-
too nice. Like,
they're
then
going
it's
to ruin
not the meta
enjoyment for
to-
8 of the 30 people.
There's too many people that are.
many
I
people are-
agree.
which
No
is the-
one in this room would allow that happen, but there's too many people.
We are the loudmouths. We have a fucking podcast. Like, obviously, we're louder than the average player. And you know what the real problem is? They've talked about already on the CID forum, well, the proxy thing's going to be an alternate rule, or the DNC is going to be an alternate rule, and then all of a sudden it's just going to be the same fucking loudmouth players are going to convince the TO we're playing with the rule for DNC, we're not playing with the rule for proxies, and it doesn't fucking matter, because if they make it an optional rule, it's going to have 0 impact. Nothing will happen. Because for one thing, other than Death Clock, I can't think of an optional rule that the competitive meta ever let fly at a tournament that mattered. And I mean, I know I'm air quoting that mattered because some tournaments matter, some tournaments don't, whatever in their mind. But it's true. Like, as soon as a tournament mattered or they cared about the prize, they were just like, no, it's a bullshit alternate rule and I'm just not going to play with it. And the TO was like, all right, you're fine. And that's what's going to happen here. That's what I'm afraid is going to happen. I've seen Cheddar Caveman arguing that, well, the proxy thing is such a conflict thing for everyone. Let's just make it an alternate rule and call it a day. No. Either write it or don't. That's a problem. I admit you've opened the hellgate now for this discussion, but don't make it a damn
The
alternate
meta
rule.
is so divided right now. People are already saying if that's included, their areas are going to not even care.
And
about
that is also a problem that I said would happen as soon as they introduced CID, was as soon as you say people can have a say in the design process, then they're like, well, the design process is over, but it was a stupid design process, and my side didn't win, so we're just not going to follow it.
Well, good news, CID was a bald-faced lie, and we don't have an input in the design process.
Well, to be
you got
fair,
that going for
Souls.
to be fair,
Thanks, Souls.
only
Souls.
to be fair, only one. There would be a lot of. I mean, I get. I mean, again, fuck you, Souls. But they did say there's going to be limitations on proxies no matter what. But
did
to
say
say
that.
the CID is not going to be valid, there's still going to be a lot of changes to a lot of things.
And
We're
they
going to
have
see
been. I
the
think they've been
final
doing good
version of
changes.
Steamroller versus the version of Steamroller that comes out today is going to be a lot different.
I think so,
sure,
too.
the proxy thing is going to still exist and it's going to be limited for what it is today. But I bet it'll be worded better, and you're going to see a lot of other changes. I mean, again, Souls, seriously, words, learn them. I do think we're going to see a lot of change. I don't think it's just because they want to. I really feel Privateer doesn't like the whole. I don't think they like to see those 25 bases,
No.
and I do agree. It's not a lot of people. It's very. I mean, it's going to be the one in 50 that are going to do that, if that.
I
Maybe
want to
1 in
clarify
100.
something, by the way, because somebody said this. I played against 3 people that done the proxy thing. Yes, one of them was Keith, but there were 2 other people that it's happened with, and one was at a tournament not here, and then 2 were Madison players. It's not just Keith. It's not that I had one bad experience, and it's not that the 100 other people that are on the forums had one bad experience. It's that there are people doing it, and I think it will increase in number.
So, your comment about the CI not being part of the CID,
Yeah.
I disagree with that partially, mainly because they did answer, they did change part of the wording right away.
Yeah, that was
They
bad.
did,
Sorry, Morgan.
and they started at least listening there. They dedicated 2 days after the uproar for talking about it, and that overshadowed everything else of the Steamroller.
Does anyone else
Completely?
think it's
Nobody
weird?
else talked about any of the scenarios.
Yeah.
Day 1,
Oh,
day
no,
2.
not even a little.
No one talked about any of the anything about the Steamroller other than widgets on a board.
I'm pretty
and if
sure-
they're good or bad. And I understand that they wanted to move on from that so they can actually talk about the people who actually play the scenarios, do the scenarios, so we can word those out instead of something that's basically a game aesthetic.
Yeah.
The meta has time and time and time and time and time again
And time?
shown, and fuck, I would have said it for an hour again, shown that they catch things and know things and see things way better than the PP
Correct.
people do. And that's the reason for the CID is after the 50th fucking time that they're like, oh, we didn't even think about sack pointing to the jack. Well, god damn it.
course.
Somebody needs to see this shit. Somebody needs to see the 16 galvanizers. Somebody needs to see the 10 marauders. You fuckers aren't
6
seeing them.
yeah, they
the
need-
16 charge, whatever. You fuckers aren't seeing it. That's why you're doing the CID.
Correct.
Is because you have 100,000 players out here. 100 of them will see it immediately, and the other 90,000 plus will figure it out as that, and we'll see it. It's a large test thing. So if you're going to do that shit, and if of those 100,000 people, 90,000 of them say this thing's actually really bad, maybe you should listen to them and not go, yeah, well, fuck you. I like playing this way, jerk off motion.
Yeah, but in this case,
Granted,
but in
that
this
is only
case,
coming
there-
from one person saying
Sure.
that.
And in this
I mean-
case, there are a lot of people on all there are all like no one is. I don't think there's one person saying proxy bases are bad. We shouldn't have any of them. Everyone agrees there should be some level of bases, some level of testing. Like there's
Not Marshall.
It's all over the school.
No, Marshall.
But I mean,
Marshall's a purist when it
Yeah.
comes to that sort
yeah.
of
There's.
thing.
I mean, there are your occasional purists. But
He stopped playing for a while because he was angry that he wouldn't lose a game due to his inability to guess a distance.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Marshall.
So yeah, but I mean, so I think like this isn't cut into this isn't 90 this isn't 90% saying we hate it. This is a huge down the middle with people on all sorts of
It's
variants. of it.
90% saying there's a huge fucking problem with this.
Yes.
Correct.
I think
No
I'm
one,
not
no
saying
one.
it's all hate it, but it's
Yeah.
all saying this. Yeah.
Your wording's terrible.
The word, yeah, even I, who think we should limit it, the current wording's terrible. Like everyone agrees, the current wording's bad. I think they're going to fix it, but I don't think wherever they end, however they adjust it, you're still going to have a divide down the middle.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be like they listen to it's not going to be like everyone whoever's on the losing side of well our side had more people or whatever. I mean you're going to it's going to be messy no matter.
I think it's a little ridiculous that I'm pretty sure we've already had more posts about proxies, which I admit this triggered me too, than all of Grimkin. Like I think an entire faction got less feedback in the CID forum.
There's actually a lot of feedback.
There is, but like. It's ridiculous how much feedback there is about a sentence about proxies.
There wasn't.
It makes perfect sense to me.
There wasn't
Makes perfect sense to me.
There wasn't as anything that would have felt as egregious as that caused that much uproar. I mean, that basically tells people how they have to play the game.
Yeah.
I mean, they answered.
Maybe that's what it is. They're telling us how to play the game.
It's the violation.
Yeah.
You know, it's the feeling of being violated. Because
I don't think it's a violation at all, but.
But like the Grimkin itself, like some of the feedback that I know of, at least with the stupid pumpkin heads, they had a FAU on those things, and then suddenly people just started spamming them, and then we're like, hey, okay, we're going to put a FA3 on these things now.
I think it is a feeling of violation. Like, and I'm not trying to make like an analogy, like obviously not being sexually molested or anything, but it's this control, right? Like who, and yes, I understand designer, blah blah blah, but. And again, I'm speaking as other people, so, this isn't necessarily me saying it, although I agree to some portion, but who the fuck is Jason Souls to come into my fucking house? If I'm playing a game with my roommate or I'm down at the game store playing a game, who the fuck is he to come and tell us that we have to play that way because that's how he enjoys the game? I don't give a shit what you enjoy, all right? Like, you can design the game, and if I enjoy the game, I'll enjoy the game, but don't fucking tell me what I'm allowed, Yeah. And that's the feeling of violation I'm talking about. It's this control. It's this feeling that it's too in there.
But they tell you a Jack's red is 6. You can play it at 7 all you want, but if the rules say it's a 6, it's a 6. I know what. Sure. I think that Jack should have flight. Fuck Jason. Jason Souls didn't give that model flight. Fuck him. It's my house. Everything fucking flies in my house.
A better example is DNC. Yeah. So a lot of the community was really upset when DNC became a thing, and I think this is akin to the way people felt about DNC. It's different. The lines are different. The way people feel is different. But I think it's a similar sort of intrinsic rule to the game. And when CID didn't exist, we were just like, all right, well, I guess D&D is a thing now.
But that's the difference.
Or DNC, sorry.
And DNC is closer, but the Mat and Rat thing isn't the same because, like I said before, that's a rules issue. Okay, nobody has been this in an uproar for an erratum. Okay, there's been ones they've been upset about, like, oh, you fucked Any2's feet, and they've been upset, but it's a rules issue, and they get over it. This is a sportsmanship issue, and you're coming to my home and telling me how I should behave as a person. Not how my models should behave as game rule tokens, but how I, as a human being, should act.
And how you play those.
For the record, I was this upset when Osian lost Deadeye.
but you get the difference between
I 100%
codifying how this model works and codifying how I should behave are two different things.
I guess, and that's the big thing, is they're trying to write down in the rules more and more how not to be a jackass.
Yeah, well, tell you what, just do comp scores where we grade our opponents on how they behave. I mean, why not go there?
I swear to God, Nate.
You don't. That's how miniature games are, Jeremy. You don't want chess. You want a miniatures game.
What's weird to me?
And a miniatures game includes sportsmanship comps because it's a gentleman's agreement, right?
If I kill Nathan on video, will I go to jail?
What's interesting to me is in Mark II, people were able to figure out where a cloud wall was and put their caster behind it without an uproar. Now they need 75 templates and need to be able to pre-measure everything or they whine. I mean, people somehow...
And you died because some jackass you played against said your Xerxes infantry wall had a millimeter of space because the table wrinkled.
Yeah.
And that shit happened and it was frustrating. But the problem now is that we've gone so far the other way.
I mean, it's like... Even in Mark I, we would... use some kind of like when a since dead old press ganger created the original 3x5 by half an inch widget was like the first real widget that existed. People would use that and put various proxy bases down all the time. There's always like some level of that existed for decades, and the pre-measuring just made it all more straightforward. But then it created this whole people can do. Oops, I just Mac. Take that, Mike.
Out of curiosity, how many new kinds of widgets have come out in Mark III that aren't a variation on straight line distance, reach ranges, or spray templates?
or deviation template.
Sure. Deviation
I mean, that's the
template.
thing is you have the blast templates that have been around forever. You have deviation templates that have and sprays which have been around forever. Like there aren't a lot of new widgets.
Well, except
there's
widget,
new-
there are a few.
There's the new 30 millimeter that'll have like little rounded edges there, so you can actually put it so you can actually
You put it up
snake
against,
out like your entire move for one model.
Broken Egg sells the rulers that are just literally 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch rulers. They're literally rulers you buy at a dime store, but they're colored with
But
affection.
I've seen the cloud wall. I've seen a ring of, I think there was only 3, but it was 3 clouds exactly measured that had a slot for an infantry to stand in. I played against that. Like, some of that stuff exists now that...
That I haven't seen. I've seen the clouds themselves, and that's just the same as a ring, just one that you don't have to lift your model up to slide
this one
under.
was
them. So
interesting.
that I'm okay. But
this one was interesting.
The
'cause it was
pre
Yeah.
joined together, I have not
And
seen.
I think that opening the door to pre-measuring, we're going to start seeing more things like that. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think we are going to.
I mean, I love cleaner games, so it's. I mean, that's why I'm talking. I mean, I want more accuracy, but I want my opponent to have to go. Well, I just like, and maybe this is honestly preference, but I want someone to go. I do, in some degrees, want people to like walk certain places and try to figure out some stuff and just kind of have to eyeball a combination of pre-measurement. There's some like mix there that I like that you can.
I like
things.
that it's like a war, that there is some uncertainty.
Yeah, the fog of war thing you mentioned.
Yeah,
I mean,
I like that, and maybe I'm in the minority. I don't know that the CID forum's ever going to find out who's actually in the majority on this issue because it's
everyone's
the 100
yeah.
loudest people.
Well,
on the
and
internet.
no one, and everyone's passionate about this issue. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone really has something to say, and everyone cares a lot about it. But
and my issue, and something that's been infuriating me involved in this is a response I see a lot, like especially on the Facebook, of somebody saying that they like the measuring, they like the widget, stuff like that. Is somebody go, it's a miniatures game. It's about miniatures. You should move them and just move your guy and smash, miniature, miniature, miniature. I'm like, there's 2 fucking words there, miniature and game. And who gave you the right to say the word miniatures, as in just little hobby guys, was the more important fucking word? And they're like, what's next? Playing with just cardboard disc with the stats?
Oh god, the
Sure.
cardboard disc thing.
Sure, fucking great. I played BattleTech on hex maps with little cardboard discs with the stats for a fucking
I only
decades.
use cardboard. I only ever use
When I started
cardboard
playing War
things.
Machine, before I bought a single model, my buddy Jordan and I, and Jordan is the SKU list builder, I realize, but him and I went out and bought 50 bases small, like 10 mediums, and like 10 larges, and we fucking melted paper clips into them, and we wrote little pieces of paper for what the models were, and played that way for months before we bought a model.
But my point is,
There's nothing wrong with that.
I've always, for 30 fucking years, I've always known if my bombers and Axis and Allies were in range of Moscow.
Yeah.
For however fucking long the game's existed, I've known every place my guys can move and what they can do in Terra Mystica.
Sure.
For as long as, all these fucking games, GAMES, miniature games, for
Board
all
games.
these games.
See, and to me that's
Sure.
still different. Like that makes sense completely. And all those board games where you have hexes. You know what? I think we should make War Machine a hex-based game. I'd love that.
And I actually,
Take
that's
the fucking
problem.
ruler out of the
That's
game.
the problem. Is if that's what they want, make it a hex-based game.
But
because that's what you're saying you want.
No, that's not. I'm not saying I wanted a hex game. I
You
said
like
I
chess?
want
You
a
want
game
squares?
where I know what can threaten where, I know what can reach what, and where I can plan my turnout based on that knowledge.
you can still do
whether
all
that's
of that.
with hexes or a ruler, I don't care as long as it's crisp and clean, and I can play the game with the maximum possible tactical decision making.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, and no, like seriously here, I'm going to take to every tournament I go to, I'm going to print out a 4x4 chart that has across the whole chart 1/4-inch measurements, and I'm going to always know just by looking at the chart exactly how far I am from every single fucking thing on the table. Are we okay with that? Because by the rules, that's legal. That's a single proxy.
I'm totally cool with that.
Then let's just play on a fucking hex.
No, because hexes are modular. Like you can't. It's not the same 12 inches every direction.
Well, no,
So-
but now it's like 6 hexes. You just move make it. If I say move 6 hexes, it moves 6 hexes. You don't need to move 6 inches. They just move hex. But just change it all hex space.
That's my point. Is at that point it's just a hex-based game.
And-
I just made it a hex-based game.
Cool. All right. Fine.
I'm not okay with that. I don't think that's what War Machine
Why?
is enjoyable that way.
Why is 12 inches and 12 hexes? Why is one better than the other?
I don't know, but you
Why-
just
They're
said you don't
they're
want to play
the
a
one's
hex-based
not
game.
better than
I
the
didn't
other.
say-
I just don't want. I don't want them.
I said that that's
over.
not what I was saying.
I know.
Like,
Like, why are you
Battletech had two-
okay in a hex-based game knowing the threat range and having no risk of fuck-up because you can always count the 12 hexes from every one of your guys constantly, why are you okay with that 100% clear knowledge with no possibility, zero possibility of movement mistakes? But when I introduce zero movement mistake possibility in War Machine, fuck it, this game's terrible.
Because if they told me tomorrow War Machine was going to a hex-based system, I might not even sell my models, I'd just burn them. That's not how I want to play War Machine.
You already had your fucking answer before you You weren't listening. So let me ask this again.
Yeah.
I'm not saying what if they change to hexes, okay?
Sure.
Why is it okay in a hex game to have pure knowledge, but not okay in an inches game to have pure knowledge?
That's not the point.
Yes, it is.
War
That's
Machine
my
would
fucking
be a
question.
bad hex game.
I'm not asking for a hex game.
And it's okay to have perfect knowledge in a hex game.
But why is it... You're not answering this question. Why is it not okay to have perfect knowledge in an inches game?
Because that's the whole difference between a hex-based game and a non-hex-based game. And War Machine would be a bad hex-based game.
It is the difference. I understand what you're saying. Why is it okay in one and not the other?
And you're not saying. You're just saying it isn't okay in one. You're not telling me why it's not okay.
Because
why is it not
the
okay?
game of War Machine, the way it's designed and the way it's developed and the way the rules exist and work and the way the models work, it's not fun that way.
I mean, you can always measure your 12 inches from one guy to another guy.
Yes.
But if I do it, it's not fun.
If you do it for every single model ahead of time and then move them around like that, yeah, it ruins it takes the fun out of the game.
So do I need to like randomly every fifth guy not measure and just slap him a random direction? Like, how much do I have to fuck up before it's fun
BattleTech
again?
had two versions of itself. BattleTech had the hex-based game, and BattleTech had the miniature version game. One was without a miniature, one was hexed. And I loved the hex-based version, and I hated the miniature version. For whatever reason, and I can't give you... I understand the question.
I can't answer the question
This
because
isn't
they're
even
just so
inch
more
versus
systems
hex.
are.
This is like a hex-based game where you then tell me I'm not allowed to count the hexes. That's what you're telling me to do.
No, and
because I
hex-based-
have the perfect knowledge in either of these, but you're telling me, yeah, I mean, there's your hexes, but you're not allowed to count. Just start moving the model, and if you run out of hexes, sucks to be you.
That's not quite what I'm saying.
Because we have the knowledge in War Machine.
You
have the perfect knowledge, but you're telling me I'm not allowed to use it because then it's not fun somehow.
Because you didn't have the perfect knowledge until
In Mark II, I didn't.
Yeah.
But we're not playing Mark II. We're playing Mark fucking 3.
And God help me, I'm agreeing with Souls. He fucked up when he allowed pre-measuring in Mark III.
Well, then the issue is pre-measuring, not proxies.
The problem is that the way the community has taken pre-measuring, yes, which is what they're trying to address. And they're going about it in a terribly ham-fisted, horrific, horrible way. What on earth?
I think Andy wants to say
Andy
something.
wants to say
I want
something.
to finally get a word in edgewise.
Okay, get a word in edgewise.
I was proving that Grind was not a hex-based game. It's a square-based game.
Someone
Oh my God.
But that's not what I was trying to say. I think the idea of pre-measuring was exactly how the community handled it very soon after it was announced for Mark III. That's I think their vision of what pre-measuring was supposed to be, is just basically measuring to see, if you're declaring something, you want to make sure you're in range, you check to make sure you're in range. I don't think that what they intended was the swath of the basis.
I know you're wrong because, or at least they lied about knowing that or whatever, because when it first happened, people were probing. People were like, wait, so I can measure everything, right? Like, you measure everything. And people even like, and this was Hungerford responded. They're like, so could I like I can do this? And Hungerford's like, you can put down 50 proxy bases, you can put down all the widgets,
Sure.
you can put all the shit down you want.
I
He
remember that.
specifically said you could proxy Palooza.
And he should not have fucking said that.
I bet he said that, and then he's like, do whatever you want. And I bet the first time we saw it, he was like, well, fuck me. Because I bet he had the same look on his face when he was at the
same look
picture.
at Mad Dogs.
The Mad Dog. I'll bet $1,000 he
Yeah.
had the same look on his face the first
Well, he's
time he
bitched
saw
about
it.
it on live cast that he's done.
So the point is, Zestusuka, whatever, some Japanese sword,
Sure.
Hanzo Steel in our chat room here says the issue is
He's a Hanzo main?
Yeah, Hanzo main. The issue is pre-measurement versus pre-movement, and that's the point, and that's why I said the solution is just to force people. They don't get to do it if they're going to play their turn twice. They have to play their turn twice. They don't get to play it once and then teleport.
I don't
everything.
want to go to a tournament and spend 4 hours forcing my opponent to remeasure everything.
You don't
That's
spend
not
4
fun
hours.
either.
You'll spend 1 hour and they'll clock themselves.
Could it be like this? And this is, I guess I'm trying to make a suggestion for something that probably has already been already discussed about before.
No, go ahead.
Could they make it so you only could pre-measure your own shit?
But that's.
You can only ever pre-measure your own shit, so you don't know what your opponent's threat
But now you
ranges
can't
are.
know a threat range. Like,
Well, you could still find. I mean, you could still pre-measure
But
it
you
from your
measure-
stuff, but that way you still have that little fog of war on the board somewhat.
'Cause you could,
But how are you only allowed to measure like what they could hypothetically attack? Like, can my brigands who have a 5-inch walk and a
Sure.
10-inch shoot?
Yeah.
How far can I pre-measure from them?
I would say you could measure their shoot. Well, I guess if you're
Yeah.
including proxy bases, then
all
yeah,
of a sudden
you're
it's
looking
the
at
same
15.
thing.
Yeah, every idea, because I mean, I get Nathan has a valid point. If you don't do 100%, there's a muddy line in the sand. I think I agree with you there.
Yeah.
That
There's
either
100%
either it all works, or you have something weird where someone gets screwed, probably in a situation they shouldn't be screwed.
Yep.
Because there's going to be, because again, it isn't the majority of people who do the 25 bases. Someone who wants to just do like 3 simple things will cross some lines, someone will call them on, and they'll be like, but why? It's just 3 little things. Well,
I
you
just want to see my model,
You
but
cross
it's
the
like,
line
we
of
cross the
sand,
line, get the fuck out.
but it's like, but you're not the taking it to the extreme person. And
Right.
again, the extreme person, I do agree, is also rare. It's just like everything. It just takes one fucking idiot to ruin it for everyone, which is true in everything and ever.
And the issue, so the boiled down issue to me is that it's impossible to pinpoint the fair middle ground.
I agree.
3 proxies, 5 proxies, 10 proxies.
Yep.
It's impossible
Yep.
to tell me how many is the right amount to allow.
Because there's too many scenarios.
And it's
Different variables.
impossible, as a rule, to codify it,
Yep.
which means they shouldn't be fucking doing it. Keep it out of the CID. I understand that you don't want the 30 proxies at the end, but you cannot, in a rules situation, prevent it. So too bad.
And that's why I'm
so
saying
the only thing you could do would be to remove pre-measurement
Yep.
entirely, and if
that's
that's what
my
you
vote.
want to do, that's what you can do. But you cannot do this bullshit about trying to
I
limit.
agree.
Like the example they fucking have currently is that if I put down a 5-inch rule
Yep.
and a proxy base,
Yep.
pick up the 5-inch rule,
Yep.
and then put a spray template down,
Yep.
I'm okay.
Yep.
But if I leave the 5-inch rule and put the spray template to make sure that that's actually accurate, that I'm not bumping the base, to make sure that
Yep.
we're clean and clear, to keep it cleaner,
You're now
provably
breaking the
cleaner,
rules.
I'm breaking the rule
Yeah.
by leaving that rule on the
And I-
table.
and I can-
Are
yeah.
you shitting me?
And-
No,
and
that's
I-
stupid, and that is stupid.
Yeah, and I disagree with that
But
too.
you can't. But there's no.
There's
Like,
nowhere
there's
between
no
there
way
and measure
between.
everything. I
So you
agree.
either need to keep it out of there and understand it's a sportsmanship issue, and we need to stop the assholes from abusing it, or you need to just get rid of pre-measuring entirely.
Or I mean, and again, if there, so again, if you do one model or one unit at a time, you do create problems where a caster wants to do various things. But maybe that's just life. Then maybe if you're only measuring, if you can do one model, X amount of one model's activation, unlimited proxies, whatever you need to do, that are for that model, not these.
But
not
what's
saying-
for a model? That then
Yeah.
again becomes the impossible to
No, what he's
codify.
saying
No, I'm
is as
saying-
soon as you move one model or one infantry
You
unit,
literally-
everything comes off the
it's
table.
One, no, it's literally one. It's one model. If you want to measure work and what charge through a charge line, you're measuring that with one base. You're
So
not.
only what it can move and attack?
No, you can measure anything you want, but as soon as it moves, everything comes off the table.
Well,
No, he's saying stuff for that model.
yeah.
I'm saying.
Yes. So my point is, what is for a model?
Well, things for the model is that the model's movement, the model's shooting, anything that affects the model that regards. If I'm going to shoot, I want to know if I can shoot. If I want to know between that model and another model, I can measure that. If I want to know how do I walk through these 6 models so I
But
don't
then you
get
get
free
an innate
strikes.
thing
Right.
where what if
I
you
want
need
to
know if you're
move.
in
I
control
want to
of it.
move this Hulk hands to where when he or Discordia. I want to move Discordia to where when Discordia auras, then that aura will affect
Well,
this
that,
model.
too bad. You can just move the one model, just the one model. And if you want to know those other things, you just better eyeball that other stuff. Just literally one model, its thing. If you want to know how that affects 6 other things later in the turn, you better have the skill that you had in Mark 1 and Mark 2 to be able to figure that out. Because people in Mark 1 and Mark 2 would move it out and they could shove things in that
So you're
range.
just eliminating pre-measuring then. Because if I can't measure from Discordia to that other model
Yeah.
to see whether that model can advance and get into Discordia's bubble, you're banning me from that measurement.
Well, you can measuring. I don't care if you measure that. But I'm just saying you can't, there's no tools or things. If you want to just take a tape measure and measure that, I
Okay.
don't care about that either. That's fine. Literally pre-measure what you want, but no widgets or no like. If I'm
like
going
you-
from point A to point B, as many widgets as I want. But if I want to know how close I am to your other model, you can still measure that shit all you want. But there's no widgets or no devices or no tokens.
So what you are, what the limit is you can only use proxy bases that are the size of the model you're currently activating and can only be placed in places where that model could possibly advance or place itself.
correct. And then also, and as many.
But
widgets,
any other measurement is okay.
Well, if you
measure
want,
anything.
yeah, anything you want
That's the
during
point.
that, yeah. But I mean, but you're not putting down more bases. You're not putting down more widgets. But if you want to, because sometimes you charge, you're like, man, I want to charge a model, but I need to make sure I don't get these 3 free strikes. And there's a way to figure that out. And if you want to put down a couple widgets and you charge, and that's just fine. I think you should be able to do all of that. But I don't think. But if you're like, man, but I want to have this model end near it, you can measure the distance between them, but there's no proxy bases you're going to put down.
And
you
again,
better
I feel that's uncodifiable.
I
feel like
think
that's
it's-
a gut instinct thing that I totally understand, and it's a valid stance.
But I
you
think-
can't black and
You
white
want something
rule.
black and white?
I think it's
Here's
very
a
black.
black and white rule that keeps pre-measurement, but gets rid of Proxypalooza. You can measure anything you want. You can proxy anything you want. As soon as you move a model, one model, you move that model, all proxies come off the table, start over. New rule. Black and white, 100% enforceable. Sucks for someone who wants to do something super complicated. They can eat a dick. We shouldn't have pre-measured in the first place. We've opened Pandora's box.
Well, and then
Oops.
they'll just do all the proxies again.
Great.
When
As soon as they do that, they will clock themselves in the first tournament they go to.
Right, but you were just complaining that it wasn't good enough when people proxied themselves for having to do it twice. But it's okay if they clock themselves doing it 10 times?
Yep. Because they'll lose then because right now they're making a miserable experience for their opponent and they're winning the fucking game because it's not using enough of their clock. That's the problem. Is that they're not being punished in any meaningful way. If they're a decent player like you and me who's finishing their games in 40 minutes for the most part, they've got 20 extra fucking minutes to play with. They can just proxy the shit out of everything and still win every game.
And since only since such a small amount of people do that, it's really not affecting that many people. It's only affecting a very small percentage.
Yeah.
But that way, if you want to put down,
But
three
that's
proxies-
black and white.
But if you want to move a model to TK another model and move some models, you can put 6 models for 4 models, and then you do your thing, and then you pull all the model, you pull the bases off, and you do your next activation. I don't have a problem with that either.
I think it works. I think there are
So
situations
really
where
you're just being
experienced people
bitter
are-
and you're just saying anybody who puts down more than 3 proxies at any one given time should just concede the game.
No,
No,
because they can put down 10 proxies if it's useful.
Maybe yeah, if you're doing a couple at a time, it's no big deal. It only factors in when you do the same amount. And if you do those 20 once, you know where those things are, so you don't actually need those proxies because you did it once. You know where it is. Just get them out of there so it's less clean, and then actually do the work of moving the models.
Yeah,
I know.
I think it's a black and white. You want a black and white rule that doesn't get rid of pre-measuring. Yes, it's a place in the it's a line in the sand where some people are going to fall on the wrong side of it that shouldn't. But it is a 100% black and white line.
And I think very few would be on the wrong side. I think most people who only proxy 1 or 2 things are fine. It stops the 25 things staying on the table the entire time.
And then I don't have to.
Yeah, but it also stops the one thing goes on the table. I mean, you're not abusing. Like,
it
is it?
doesn't stop the one thing on the table.
Yeah, you go from point A to point. You move that one
No,
model
no,
to
no,
one
no.
model.
I mean, like, I think it's not invalid. So, like your example with they did a second unit and then Jack and then they also thing and then also thing. But I don't think there's any problem with a Haley 3 player knowing that the cloud wall is going to be the last thing they do.
Sure.
In their maintenance phase, they proxy out the cloud wall and then they do their entire fucking turn and then they do the cloud wall.
The only way to
What's
allow
the
that
problem with that?
The only way to allow that without a muddy line in the sand is to say, okay, the rule is you may have, and this is what they're trying to do, and I think it's fucking
Well,
nightmare.
that's what-
you can
and
have 5 proxies on
My
the table.
point is that your thing, which is fine, I understand, but your thing eliminates that completely. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think anybody's upset with that.
But it actually doesn't completely because they've already said you can use beads to mark ranges.
No, your thing. Your thing.
My thing, the beads don't affect it. I'm saying no proxies.
Right.
If you want to put down beads on the table that mark the stone's aura, measure where the stone's aura affects right now.
So you could leave the clouds on the wall, just not the proxies for the trenchers themselves?
You could put a line of beads that says just stay behind this.
What if my bead is 30 millimeters
And
across?
that's where people get to be jackasses. Yes.
What if
Which
my
is why I
bead
didn't
is
say
3
that.
inches across?
Right.
What if my beads my
Can I
dick?
put 3-inch beads? Well, I said 3
Well, then
inches
it won't be
across.
Oh!
Like,
Bazinga.
I mean, can I just leave the clouds there?
No, that's
mean,
my
why
point.
not?
That's why that's not the rule I suggested. The rule I suggested was you move a model, pick up all proxies.
Right, and my point is I don't think there's anything wrong with the trencher cloud being there for your whole turn, as long,
Except I can't come up with a rule that allows
right.
the trencher
And
cloud that doesn't
that's
allow
my
everything.
point, is that your rule might be clean and might stop people from putting 50 proxies out, but
Yet
it also,
again, Signer's a problem. Fuck you, Signer.
yes,
Just suck
but
it.
it also gets rid of, I think, valid things. Like, I don't think there's a problem with, in some situations, to have a proxy you throw down because that thing's going to be the last thing you do and the rest of your turn is around that thing.
And I realize that it
I
dicks
don't
over someone
want-
who has a colossal that needs to be able to get in, and they want to move the rest of
I
their
don't
army.
want to
for
block my
colossal.
colossal, so I want to put the proxy base down and work around it. And there's
I
nothing
get
wrong
that.
with that.
I get that, but I can't. I have thought about this a lot, and I can't come up with a way to write that rule. That
Nobody
doesn't just
can, which is why they shouldn't be fucking trying.
which is why I came up with my rule.
Side topic. Since, and you said this before, since almost all games end by turn 7, why do we need to have an official end
An
turn?
official game and stuff. Yeah.
The
That is a little
answer
weird.
is because of the one game per convention that ends in 2 people slapping the clock back and forth for 20 turns, taking up 15 seconds per turn, and nothing happens, and eventually one of them gets clocked.
All right.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Fair enough.
That's it. It's the
fair.
slappy slap 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 slappy slap 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 slappy slap.
Which
slap,
also
slap.
involves people like going knocking
Right.
models over.
Yeah, and that's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's literally just to stop that once per, not even per convention. That happens once per fucking year, where two chuckle nuts are
might
slapping
happen
the
once per convention.
Okay, it happens once per convention, but it's usually in the losers bracket, and who cares?
yeah.
But it's to prevent that. It's to prevent the sloppy 15 seconds, literally throw my models slapping the clock that happens. I mean, I have literally seen models tossed in
No, I have to.
streamed games.
I have to touch all my models.
He's in my zone! Clock! I have literally seen that, and that is terrible, and that's why. That's why. It's
And-
100% for that.
And so is Proxypalooza. It's also terrible, and it's also horrible to watch, and it's also horrible to play against.
I mean, again, it's a personal thing.
It's a personal
but as
thing.
long as when they execute it, you hold them to executing it accurately at that point to make sure that they're moving the right
Then you
models
don't
and
have a
stuff,
problem with it.
then it's no different in my mind to them taking 30 minutes to be in the think tank. And I don't mind 30 minutes of think tank in their head or 30 minutes of think tank on the table. Either way, I'm bored for 30 minutes, and then they finally take their fucking turn.
My rule allows you to do 30 minutes in the tank with proxies. You just have to take them all up and activate them without
Sure,
perfect knowledge.
that is better than the shit they're doing.
I agree. The thing
Okay.
the thing
I
they're doing,
understand. Yours
whoever's
is-
idea, I know someone from Privateer has the shitty ass job of listening to this podcast
No.
and killing themselves later.
Several of them do listen.
Okay.
But they don't have to.
Whichever one of you or people you know that aren't listening that are trying to codify, you may have X number of proxies. I want you to hit them in the face that many times. It's a dumb rule. It's not going to be enforceable. It's not going to be something a TO can monitor.
Nobody wants it.
And no one fucking wants. I don't want it. I hate Proxypalooza. And I swear to God, if that's the rule that makes it into the CID, I will be angry.
It'll be interesting if they somehow put a rule in there that everyone's unhappy with. Like they could theoretically make some portion happy, but somehow I fear they're going to make everyone unhappy. Like somehow they're going to just word it just right that everyone's like, what the fuck?
It's
like-
can we please not have a rule that's even worse than you have to have a beard to get a bonus? Can we please, God, not have a rule that's worse than that?
I object. I want this. Well, you got a beard too. You got a beard, so you know.
Yeah.
But that's the rule. That was a rule at Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, that was more so their fill-in rule.
I know it
until-
was. I'm just saying. I feel like they're going to come up with a rule
I don't think it
worse
was a
than that.
fill-in role until the backlash forced them to do more stuff afterwards. They're like, "Oh, that was temporary, guys. It may or may
JK.
not have been planned to be permanent."
Yeah.
But
JK.
yeah, it's like when you hit on somebody and they shut you down. You're like, "I was just kidding.
kidding."
We're buddies, right? I'm not actually gay and interested in you. That was a joke."
End of the day, the way they have it worded is terrible. I'm making a point. You got a point on the table with
Do you?
a point.
No,
End
I
of the
just
day,
farted. That's all that
the
was.
way
Oh,
it's
okay.
currently worded is awful,
It's
and I would
terrible.
rather have it completely gone than in its current state. I do feel there is a middle ground, close to what Jeremy's saying, that would make probably some percentage happy, but not all
Did Brian
happy.
just agree with me?
More or less. I'm not
I've
sure.
been
that-
agreeing with you the entire time.
for the most part, but I would rather if they're not willing to go to something more cut and dry, it should be nothing.
Yeah.
And then if it's nothing, people when they face those occasional players who do it have to hold it to them. You just and it's like everything else. You got to stand up to a bully.
And I,
But the
it's-
thing is,
I know,
I do
people,
worry the thing-
those people aren't being bullies. They're just trying to play a clean game.
yes.
Legitimately. The way they're playing a clean game ruins the game for everyone else.
And not for the other people. Like that's
Not
the
for the other
problem,
three
is
people that wanna
it
play
does-
that way.
It's not three people. Like that's the thing is that not everybody puts down that many. The top tier players, that even the ones that don't proxy Palooza, they still are okay
They're
with
okay
it
with
because
it.
they want a clean game.
I know.
I think it's the times when I've seen proxies being put down in mass is usually on a very important turn. You know, when you're
Yeah, it's
trying
not-
to move
it's-
that
yeah.
warp wolf into that stalker into range
It's
of the
usually
opponent's
cast.
caster.
I will agree. It's not
And
even
that's
every.
fine.
It's not every turn either.
No.
It's like it's a turn where I guess
And it's the turns where people would stop their clock, call over a judge, and say, "Judge, can you double check if my warp wolf
Can reach X.
can reach that caster?" And you know what the judge fucking does?
He puts down
The
the
judge puts
proxies.
down 7 proxies, 4 proxy bases, and measures all this shit
for one model.
For Valid and fair. But the point is, they do that for cleanliness, and so wanting that cleanliness isn't a bad thing.
No, it's not.
No, and I think we all want more cleanliness. We all want to. It's just the
Especially
sheer
at gaming conventions, we need as much cleanliness as possible.
Yeah.
Can we have a sidebar about
Shower
soap?
every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone agrees we want proxies. It's just the how much is too much. It should be all
Again,
or
not
some.
Marshall.
Yeah, not Marshall. Marshall. Marshall versus the world.
I'm not trying to go back to the beginning. It is egregious when you see the Signar player that's basically moving their entire wall up.
Or any
and you
faction,
can't,
but
you
yeah,
can't
Signar
do
does it
anything
more.
against
Signar
that.
does the most because
And
they have
it's basically
trenches.
every single turn of that cloud wall just moving
And
slowly
that's the thing,
towards
it's like,
you.
even your rule, like if they've got 20 proxies up, and then they move the one model, they didn't just measure the 19 again real quick. Like, I mean, you're
if they-
going to
if-
hate that just as much.
No,
You
because
go,
if I
and that's
rule it-
there,
if they have
proxy,
to,
proxy, proxy.
if they have to come off the table completely, what I'm trying to do is disincentivize the behavior to be happening every time. That's what I'm trying to do. And
or you're trying to bully your opponent into making an error.
no.
I know that's not what you think you're doing.
But it is how it could be interpreted. Yes.
Yes, because they have shown. I mean, it's clean. You both agree, you both see it, but you're like, but can you prove it again? Oh, tick tock, prove it a third time, tick tock, prove it a fourth time. Oh, you clocked yourself, eat a dick.
Well, if they stop proving and just do it, they can
Or
proxy it once and just do it.
tick tock, or don't prove it, do it, and then fail by a quarter of an inch because I bullied you out of measuring at the time it mattered, and now you lose that way too. Eat my dick. Like, you're forcing them to either clock themselves or make a mistake when they've proven that they could cleanly do it. And I'm not saying that's your intention. I'm not saying you're doing it maliciously. I'm saying that that's what's being done to them.
Right.
And that's bad. That's also unfair. That's as unfair to them as you having to face 20 proxies is to you.
I don't disagree. I think that
We're using a lot of time today.
When someone has to shoot, I guess here's my thing. And this is part of it. Just being an old guy who's done it differently for 15, 20 years. Sure. When someone is facing me and they're like, "This is my assassination run, and I'm going to kill you by gunfire."
Yep.
Pre-Mark III, and again pre-Mark III, they had to move models and try to maximize their shots. In Mark III, because of the rules, they can guarantee 100% of the models can see me because they can put down the 30 models, the 30 bases, and it just feels so ridiculous. But it is legal. It's legal. It's like we need to give ranged more advantages, that we can guarantee more things for range. The most boring aspect.
It
of
happens to melee some too. Like when you have small base troopers like charging a large base, and you can make sure now that you get the 7 people base to base in the exact right position around the front arc. I mean, you do it then too.
And the thing is, it matters for some things more than others. Because like my halberdiers, I'm just like, oh, they all charge. They're all in reach range. I'm going to reform anyway. Who gives a dick? But if you don't have reform, like the way they get in there matters.
Are there units
a lot.
without reform anymore? By the way,
who would play that?
I don't think there's
That
units
sounds like
without
garbage.
reform anymore.
That sounds dumb.
Like, fucking everything has reform.
Yeah, it is a rule that they kind of went nuts with. But
I don't know how PP is going to handle it, and I'm afraid they're going to handle it worse than
can they
anyone
handle
wants.
it worse than letting souls type things?
But they might not have taken away his computer. Like he might still type things next week.
They gave him a computer; it's just not plugged in.
You guys read Dilbert? It's just an etch a sketch.
Yeah,
or it's just or some sort of children's thing. Or
My
it's just,
actual favorite thing is there's people have Dilbert cartoons where they replace the dialogue with Scott Adams' Twitter feed, and he is a sociopath.
They should stealth ban him. They should stealth ban souls.
That's great. But no, like
That would be the best thing in the world.
Scott Adams
Maybe
is
they
like
did.
anti-feminist.
Oh, God.
Actually it's about ethics and games journalism. Biotruths, women are weaker than men, and here's why. Like he is insane. So people have been taking Dilbert cartoons and replacing the text with his tweets, and it's magical.
Oh my god, that's
I
terrifying.
didn't realize he was that way.
Oh, he is. I'm sure he voted Trump.
But Dilbert's funny. No, I'm sad. I liked it.
Sorry. Yeah, it could be funny. Hey, Chinatown's a great movie. Polanski anally rapes children that he's drugged.
Yeah.
You know?
I was really sad when I saw The Pianist and I realized he made it because I really enjoyed The Pianist, and I saw by The Rapist. I'm like, damn it. I just enjoyed this movie. I can never watch it again.
But he only anally rapes underage children that he's drugged.
That's true.
So, you know.
Yeah.
It's okay then?
Yeah.
According to Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh my god.
But man, I have tried
She
to
focused on the underage, and she's like, "Oh, it must have just." I don't know if she literally didn't know the details of it, but like at an episode of The View, she's like, "Oh, it's different in Europe," and I think she thought that he just had a consensual sexual relationship with a
With an underage
17-year-old girl, not that he drugged a 12-year-old and then while she was conscious butt fucked her. Like that's not okay in Europe.
still just-
like maybe some Eastern European countries that have collapsed under Putin, but in general,
Soviet
it's still
Russia.
frowned upon.
Yeah, that's sort of the See, there's a difference. Yeah, exactly. There's a slight difference there, what he did and what that is.
And that's why you don't have that many widgets on the
And
phone.
that's why you don't let souls talk.
That's why Souls is a monster.
So we're playing Shadows of Brimstone on Friday night. Everything is going well. In the middle of it, Andy's like, "Hey, let's talk about," brings up War Machine. Just to, like 35 minutes later, derailing me, Jim, and Jordan. Because Jordan and Jason had no clue what's going on.
Oh, God.
And for no reason, we're in the middle of it. We're fighting.
I said
like,
something.
I attack this monster, and he's like, "Widgets and War Machine are terrible." Ha ha ha. And like, there was like no segue. He's like literally just brought it up in the middle of like fighting monsters. And then 30-minute interruption.
There was a proper segue for it. I don't
There was
remember
no
what it was.
segue.
There was something.
Then there was like a 55-minute to an hour conversation afterwards. I just left to go to my room for it. I was like, I don't care anymore. Well, to be fair, the after conversation was 100% about Kane 3 being the worst thing ever and Jim taking a break from the game because of it.
Kane
Yeah.
3 does sound like cancer with 8 chargers.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is
absurd.
it is the worst. It's
I watched
And
I watched a little bit of his game with Jim on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I first of all, I couldn't tell what Jim was playing because he had the Commodore cannon in his circle list. So I don't know what's going on there. But
It seems like a strong play. Why not put? I think Commodore Cannon on my
good
list.
news. Good news. You can do that at my tournament for the
Oh,
donate
wow.
your Frankenstein.
But my point is, like,
Ooh.
I couldn't really tell what was going on. All I could tell was that Jim was getting tabled and wanted to flip said table.
Well, when
That's all I could tell.
It's hard to take a beating from a 12-year-old. It's always difficult when a child crushes you. You're like, I know this guy isn't that smart. He's not dumb, but he's not smart, and he's just ripping me apart. And he has this like mystical look on his face, like he's being clever when he's just playing the most broken thing ever. Like he doesn't even understand what's going on. It's like
It's like when I
playing-
played against Dave's Amon and Rosalis
Yeah.
early in Mark III, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to kill myself. Because I just couldn't beat it right.
So glad I beat him in that tournament. The last fucking tournament I played in, I think.
It's not his fault.
I'm sure he's going out purchasing 8 chargers,
8 chargers
and Kane 3.
I mean, maybe.
I just wish. Well, he already plays Signar, so
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm
ready
saying.
for it.
Chargers,
At
yeah.
least the one thing I'll give Dave is that he only plays spam list, but he plays a different spam list every other week.
Well,
so
he
it's
played that
much more
Amon and Rosalis.
refreshing.
There was like 3 months where it was just
Sure.
Amon and
but
Rosa
now
every
he's
day.
really changed.
And now he's
uh,
changing,
every-
and I really respect that. Actually,
I think our conversations either got back to him or I think one of us just told him. I think I told him flat out. It was like, you should not pick out the new people at the store
that
and
list.
play
When a
Amon
12-year-old
Rosa.
boy came into play for like the first time ever, and he just plops that shit down. It's like, oh.
So
speaking of anally raping
I would
12-year-old
rather-
children, yeah.
No,
I would rather have
it's not in games.
PP fix shit like that and just let this proxy shit alone. Because the proxy shit, as annoying as it is, isn't that many players. But this fucking broken spam list nonsense is so much more common.
So
But Souls, that's not what he cares about.
I know. Stop talking to people, Souls. I think if Souls wouldn't have said anything last week, there'd still be debate, but the anger level from everyone would
Would
be
be
down
much
to about
lower.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my God, is he
did
just? Did
escalate.
he just? But he's like, oh my God, stop it! Just,
okay, so we want them to either stop fucking with CID or just implement my rule because it's amazing. We want them to implement across the board FA3 and never print another fucking theme force with point reductions. Yes, everyone's agreed.
No, there's no point reductions in Theme Forces. It's the point additions
Okay,
where you get like X things.
that's
for
the
free.
same thing.
No, that's not a point reduction. You still count those points.
If Theme Forces didn't have reduced points, and I'd be so happy. But that is what it is. I mean,
So dumb.
that's in the annoyance. To me, that is annoying, but it doesn't like make me not play the game. It's like I'm annoyed by it, but I'm going to play the game.
I don't want to have to play 20 points down every time I don't play a theme force.
I mean, yes, it's
It's
true.
dumb.
I mean, yes, it is.
It's dumb.
And I wish everyone had, but if everyone at least had equal theme forces that were.
Yes, which
That's-
is the whole heart of the problem. I agree. But even if
Or
it weren't
the
the problem,
restrictions just need to be more restrictive so that it is like you.
well, they are in ret. Rhett's theme forces are fucking
Sure.
atrociously
But everybody
restrictive.
does. Like, the theme force needs to
red
be,
is really
you
bad.
are giving up huge things
Yeah.
to get these 20 free points.
Then great.
And it does work for some factions, but not others.
But a lot of
Sometimes it
factions,
does.
it's just like, you can't have any of your terrible models in your army, and you get 20 free points.
Yeah.
That seems strong.
Like, for at least 60% of my casters, Convergence is okay with the restrictions.
Yeah. And were you going to even play the other 40%?
Lucant.
Okay.
Like I like
That's fair.
Lucant actually likes the medium-based infantry,
does,
and
he
he wants
does.
and so that's a little but
But are you going to play 20 points down to play Lucant?
no,
Yeah.
no, I'm
Right.
not.
I've got this beautiful red army that's fully painted, and I can only play Battle Mages.
For the
That's it.
To be fair, with Ron, that's all you wanted to bring.
That's it.
It's
Anyway,
the only
but-
playable theme force in
I am very excited for Wednesday because Wednesday we get the battle engine theme.
I'm excited to see
CID
that.
and other
TEP,
quote unquote
TEP.
other
I hope
quote
they
unquote
butt fuck the
other
shit out of
models.
the
Wednesday,
TEP.
my TEP is going to have 20 more hit points, and he's going to have flamethrowers on his spray.
I hope they butt fuck the TEP.
No, they're all
Finally
battle engines are
playable,
being
finally
all of them are
playable.
being buffed. Yeah, I am excited for that.
I'm excited for the Rhett one to get buffed.
They might drop it back down.
It doesn't need to be.
No,
Yeah.
but I'm okay with it.
Rat.
But there's going to be other models too. I'm curious what
Yeah,
the other
it'll be
models
fun.
are. And then the Bane theme comes on Friday or something. So it's
Isn't
and we'll
it
see,
Bane Friday? They're like gonna just
and
like,
we're gonna
not talk about
see
anything
we're
with
gonna
Bane.
see a new wave of the Steamroller. Probably have like version 2 of Steamroller.
On Wednesday.
So we'll have Steamroller version 2 document. We'll have the battle engines, other model engines.
I'm
Bane.
terrified to
It's
see
gonna be a fun
version
week.
2.
No, but the thing is, though, the issue is nobody's really
There's no
playtested.
feedback other than the
There's
fucking,
a bunch of battle reports.
There's a bunch of
There-
battle
Mark
reports.
II 20.
Some of the battle reports said we didn't follow these rules because they're dumb.
The next edition of
Oh.
the 2017 Steamroller is just going to be a picture of Jason Souls fucking your mother while flicking you off. It's like, ah!
I do. So people got mad about
This is the game as I imagined it.
That'd be a pretty interesting game. Jesus. But
Aggressive.
there were battle reports where guys go, I played against my opponent, he refused due to the proxy rules, and the response from PP was, well, you get an infraction for this. If you don't want to play by the rules, that's fine, but don't post stuff here. You're not helping. And people got, how dare you? I'm like, well, I mean, to be fair,
That's part of the-
they want the feedback based on the rules. I get you don't like
the
it.
battle report. I played against my opponent. He refused to approve the proxy rule, so another person at the game store came over and DQ'd him, so I won. Battle report in.
Yeah,
We attempted to use the cluster method to set up a
PG.
table. We couldn't, so the game was canceled.
Oh, the cluster method. I didn't like it.
Well, it's like literally impossible.
No,
Like,
it's
no,
mathematically possible.
It's mathematically possible if instead of following the rules sequentially, you just set all the terrain up and then measure it. You can't like do the place this now place
No,
now
because
place
you'll-
3
you'll
4
butt fuck
because
yourself
you'll
into-
always get to
Well,
the
it
point
always-
where
it
it's
always comes out-
impossible to place.
It always comes out looking like the 5 side of a die.
It needs to be a 5 point. Yeah, or it can be like a 5 point star.
Can
Yeah, if you have like one and the first two there,
First two there,
you can do
sure.
like here, here, and here.
Oh, yep.
Okay, because
That's
that's
going to be tight, even tighter than the 5
Yup.
sided die.
Yup.
It's going to be just like.
Yep, and then over here you have 3 things that barely fit because this 8
Because that
inches and then the
rule-
6 inches away from the
Yeah,
board.
the cluster method is not strong.
Because this is dead center on the fucking board.
I know.
It has to be.
It had by law.
By law. So even if it's barely touching that edge, so you have the full 24, you have 8 inches.
No, it's supposed to be centered on the center.
No, it has to be touching the center
Oh,
point.
just
It has to be
touching
touching
the
the
center-
center
okay,
point. So
okay.
even if it's all the way over, you have 24 inches to the edge.
Yep.
You're getting rid of 8 inches
Yep.
because that's the closest one can be. You're getting rid of 6 inches because you can't be within 6 inches of the edge.
Yep.
So that's 14 inches. So you have 10 inches to fit 3 terrain pieces that can't be within 2 inches of each other.
Yeah.
3 walls.
I really don't think.
What?
I don't think that. I don't know why. I wish they didn't even have to put those kind of cluster rules in. I mean, I get where they're trying to help people out more, but at some point, I think that needs to be teal and needs to have some more flexibility.
that needs
Because
to be something
you can rotate it, and then you have more than 24 because you're going diagonal, but then you're getting into somebody's fucking deployment zone.
Well, then you have terrain that's also like one person has terrain on their side of the table. That won't matter because they'll be past it by the time
Yeah.
the game
Well,
starts.
here's the set. Here's the center point, right?
Yeah.
You have here's
Watch
the center
the drawing
point,
at home,
and you have this here
listeners.
and this here, and that's your fucking table.
Yeah.
There you go. You have 5 pieces here, 3 pieces there. There's deployment, and center point.
Yeah.
Zones.
Yeah.
Well,
so these kind of things need to be, and there
Eat a
has
dick.
been, and I did see some feedback that there was people had a lot of problems with that, the kind of deployment.
Don't know why those are in SteamOR in general.
because people suck at setting up terrain. And
I
so-
will. Do I need to leave a
What it
class
needs-
and travel
I
from
wanna
meta to
double
meta?
I want to double check the CID. It needs to say set up terrain. If you are a knuckle dragging Neanderthal, here's some ways that your primitive pea brain can do it. But for the love of God, if you have any semblance of rational basis in your mind, don't use these. These are just in case you're an idiot gibbon.
Yeah, that's
So-
I agree. High five.
Hey, guess what, Brian?
What?
I found something very disturbing. That suddenly now Travis has usurped your terrain placement ability. So now everyone is calling horrible. I'm going to place a hill with a rock wall on the
Yeah.
inside of it with like a water feature inside the rock wall
That's illegal.
as marging.
Whoa, hey, motherfucker.
Wait.
Travis ain't got shit on me, motherfuckers. I will come to this goddamn house, tear down this goddamn fuck you, Travis.
You know,
in summary.
You
Is that
could
kinda
show
like
up when
we
he's
told Jim
streaming.
that
When
somebody
he's
else
streaming,
came
you
up
could
with
show
a
up
game
at his
for the
house.
game?
Yeah.
You know now when he's going to be streaming, you could show up and then
I'm gonna
flip that
fucking.
table.
What do you call it when you call 911 on someone, or you call the SWAT?
Swatting?
Swatting,
I'm gonna
yeah.
swat that motherfucker, but instead of swat, I'm just gonna stab him in his neck. Is
That's
that like
called
swat?
stabbing.
I get those
Or
confused
you
a
want to
lot.
swat him, where you just swat him in the face.
Yes, physically just swat. That's. I don't want to send the police. I'll get in trouble. But yeah, actually just swat.
I think
Physically
you get in
swatting.
trouble for that too.
No, I don't care about that problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be like, he stole my. He's trying to steal my train gimmick.
Yeah.
I'm willing to travel to every meta. You pay for me to fly to wherever you are. I will spend a weekend teaching you how to set up train. The goal is you want your players to be unhappy with train, but not leave the building unhappy. You want them to be like, damn it, but they stay. That's where you want all of your tables to be.
That's Brian's happy place.
Lessons in that build a bridge. Other lessons are build 1,000 needles.
Yeah. 1,000 needles is a good one. Make sure
The all trenches table.
Yeah.
Now that the boiler rule's out, the bridge with like that might be okay.
And the thing is, we actually in 1,000 needles will work. You just when you make 1,000 needles now, you have to make sure you have enough
5 inches in
5-inch
between.
rooms.
Yep.
But as long as there was 5 inches, it's legal.
Yeah.
Side note: Chris Root is a listener, and some of you might recall, like 2-3 episodes ago, I was talking about how I needed to get a Prime Conflicts, but
Yeah.
they weren't on the web store,
Yeah.
and I didn't
Oh.
want to spend real money.
Yeah.
So he messaged me and he's like, "Hey, were you still looking for Prime Conflicts? Because I have one new in box." And I'm like, "Yeah, what are you looking for?" And he said, "Nah, it's fine." So thank you, Chris Root.
That's amazing.
He's an awesome guy. Best thing about Vermont.
You know what I really want? I really want some
Not that
Cheds
it's
from
bar pie.
Australia. I would go
I know,
buy
it's
them,
not-
but
it's
I
not
can't
his
go to
fault.
Australia.
It's not his
So
Dixie might have some.
I mean, well, she might, but I'm just saying, since you needed Prime, I'm just asking for some crackers called Cheds from Australia. Maybe I'll pay them, but if you want to send them to me, I'll take them.
They might have them at
No, they don't.
World Market. They don't have them at World Market?
I don't
No.
think so.
Oh, I didn't even look at
haven't
World
looked
Market.
at
I've
World
looked at.
Market.
I've
Over
checked
in
a few-
Greenway.
Yeah,
I've
World Market.
checked a few places that sell international foods. I mean, because cheddar is basically cocaine cheese.
Yeah,
Cheds,
Cheds,
yeah.
It's
Nothing mimics it in the U.S. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, it's
It's
like
some kind of
Cheez-Its
cheese.
if the cheese coating was crack.
Well, it's like I always I refer to it. The only thing in America that's similar is the intensity of chicken in a biscuit type. It's like it's that much cheddar intensity in a cheese cracker like chicken
I
is
don't-
in a chicken and a biscuit.
That
I
seems
don't think
overwhelming.
Ched's actually. I don't think it is cheddar. It's
No, but
it's
some
some
kind of-
other cheese.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
Because of
cheese
course,
substitute.
you take a cracker and you give it like Swiss flavor and you call it Cheds.
Yeah,
that would
I mean-
make perfect fucking sense. Australia.
It's probably 80% spider.
That's why
you
God
can
put
get them
spiders
on.
in
You
your
can get
country.
it on Amazon.
What about World Market?
$18.95 for a box.
Yeah, it's too. Yeah,
Nope.
for shipping. I looked. I've looked into shipping them here. It's too expensive. I'll have to look into World Market.
Well, I've vented my spleen. Does everyone else feel good for the day?
Recommendations?
I assume we have no. There was one ZG. It was terrain building. Somebody was asking. I just saw it when our Facebook thing went up about advice for like building hills that aren't shitty to put models on.
You can't. No sloping hills. Just don't even try it. You want sheer cut. I get 1-inch styrene foam from like a Home Depot, and I just perfectly up and down it.
Yep.
And you can just flock it. You paint it. You put couple version. I actually layer different types of green on there, like light green, dark green, and just fucking flock the whole thing. And pure up and down doesn't look as good as side angles.
it's so much more
And
playable.
if you get the 1-inch, or it's either 0.75 or 1-inch casino dice are the exact height of that. So
Which
if
is
you
super
use
helpful.
casino dice, people use them a lot.
Enough
so,
people have casino dice.
So you can use casino dice to hold up the model. So the hill it's high enough for it's an inch hill, and then it's the exact height of a dice. So whatever, if casino dice are an inch, maybe they're 0.75, whatever they are, they sell that foam at like Home Depot.
Yeah.
And honestly, you can make like 50 hills in like a day because you get it, you cut it, you basically glue on dirt because you can't just like spray paint styrene, it'll melt. So you just basically glue dirt on it, then you pour a bunch of flock on it. You still paint it green
How do you
because
do your rubble? Because he also asked about rubble.
rubble was literally just you have to get like plyboard and you get it cut out. So you need like a table saw to cut it out.
Yeah.
And
And then
you
you
just glue a shitload of gravel to it.
Well, it was
gravel,
and it
or
was like
fish tank gravel.
Fish tank, some type of gravel like fish tank gravel, and then you just kind of layer it on there. You can actually get bags of rocks that because fish tank gravel sometimes won't look quite right, but there's like Home Depot sells rubble that's just like it too. There's bags of rubble. You just like glue it all on there. But rubble isn't really rubble anymore. The problem with that, rubble is not rubble.
The thing is, if you try to make rubble that's like a lot of like rocks and like broken jacks and stuff like that, models can't stand on it. So you have to do something flat. And yours, you just did like that gravel. And
and the gravel was all the same height, so it worked very well for rough terrain.
Yeah.
There are certain people that are going on holy wars against 2D terrain because it's in the front. Because again, miniatures game and it's all about the aesthetics.
I love 2D terrain.
I like some 2D terrain.
I'm just surprised that people who are so gung-ho about the hobby aspect would enjoy having their models constantly break in half and get their paint ruined by falling off of hills.
Yeah.
I would think that hobby people wouldn't like that. Yeah. But whatever.
I like buildings. Buildings my jack isn't going to fall off of.
And then the second one we had was, have you guys tried the Terra Mystica app?
Yes, I've been playing it a few times. It is very good.
What do you think of the different starting victory points? Does it have a thing built in like I talked about with Darklings versus Fakirs? Is that a thing it has?
I haven't. So I've played only 1.5 games, and the games I've played were mostly making sure I understood how the app worked more than it was. They have 3 things that you can check mark. One, they have a check mark for, because it's just a core game, but there's a check mark to use the expansion rules for who goes first, which is one of the most important things.
The best rule, yeah.
There is a different map you can use, and there was a VP button thing, but I don't know what exactly it does.
Because you didn't use it.
I literally just got it a couple days ago.
Haven't used that.
And I've been doing so much other gaming, but I'm to the point where I was going to start investigating little things. And also,
that might be like because I know there was like a house rule that was working on with like bidding VPs to pick your people.
But there's some kind of map VP migration that because I think sometimes if you change a map a little bit, it kind of balances out the factions a little bit more. Just because if you just change the layout, it makes it a more even ground.
Who knows?
But it is really good. I will say that. If you play via AI right now, they only have easy opponents. They're going to have medium and hard opponents within the next month. But you can play online. You can pass and play. The interface is beautiful.
Is it Apple only?
It's you can play. It's Apple, Android. You can cross play.
Oh, it's Android. All right, I'll just download it then.
It's $10 and it's amazing.
we should all download it.
Yeah, you should get it. Yep. It's a great game. I'm just
good at it.
4 of us can play Terra Mystica.
I believe it is a board game.
I recommend
we can kill it like we did Lords of Waterdeep and never play it again.
Yeah, we played a shitload of that like for a while.
We played. I played Terra Mystica. Even though I haven't played it much in the last year and a half, it's still been it's still top 3 most played games I own.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing game.
It's a game that I will play. That other people claim I don't like to play.
Hey, you know what game super awesome? Kemet.
What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so another Zappity Grumble. We have one on the chat here too. We're not ignoring you.
There's 2 on the chat
What is
now.
your favorite 15 minute filler game?
Well, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but my recommendation for the day was going to be, I don't know if it's quite 15 minutes, but I played a game yesterday called Role Player. And
Too late, he talked about it for 20 minutes.
That was my first thing.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was a lot of fun. I would recommend it.
It's probably a 15-minute game if you're 2 or 3 players and you've played it a couple times.
Maybe even with 4 if you've played it before. I had never played it.
It's pretty fast. I also like I think Dresden Files is a great 15-minute game.
I've heard of that, and I have not played it.
You have a pretty cool game that's probably 15 minutes. A little war thing.
Yeah, the Grizzled is super. Oh, I have it in the car. We can, but it's a co-op World War I game, card game. Cool. Also, I mean, I think maybe I'm stepping on Andy's toes, but like any variety of love letter is a great thing to have in your back pocket for a filler game.
I like Sushi Go.
Tsuchiko, yeah.
That's actually really fast and easy.
That was super popular.
There's a game, I don't know if I've ever brought it out, and you guys seen it, but there's a one called Geschenkt, is the German title. It's no thanks. It's Geschenkt is literally translated from German as an unwanted gift, kind of like a white elephant, but it's called No Thanks in America. And what it is it's just a deck of cards from like 5 to 40, and you take out like 5 random ones, and then on your turn, so you just like flip one up, and you either take it and put it in front of you, and it's worth negative face value, or you put a token on it, and the tokens are worth plus 1 point. So they're a drop in a bucket compared to the negative, but they allow you to not take cards. And when you take a card, you also get all the tokens that are on it. So the more, people are like, fuck that, and eventually like, well, it's worth it to be able to avoid the next 10 cards.
Right.
And the tokens are a zero sum, so eventually you're going to run out and just have to take things. So you have to be like, I'm going to run out of cards before he does, which means I might as well take it now.
Right.
But maybe I can bleed it for tokens. And the other thing is, the reason you take out random cards is if you have a straight, the entire straight is only worth negative the least value of them. So sometimes you have like the 18 and the 20, and you're like, dear God, I hope the 19 is still in that deck.
Right.
Because for everybody else it's worth negative 19, but for me it gains me 20 because it absorbs the 20 back in so that only the 18's hurting it. And that's a really fun fast filler game. And it gets kind of brutal. Because again, like, that 19, nobody else wants it, but they all know I want it, so I'm like, you fuckers just put some tokens on it.
Yeah.
I want it anyway, but I'm going to bleed you for tokens, and eventually someone's going to be spiteful and go, you know what, fuck you, I'm taking it instead.
Yeah.
So it's a fun little one.
Interesting.
I don't think I like it.
That's fine. It literally takes 2 minutes to play.
Unacceptable. Whatever, which is this cards with numbers. It reminds me of like playing like Scribbage, and I just hate everything about that. So
Scribbage?
That's Scribbage. That's like
Like Scrabble and Cribbage at the same time?
Scribbage. Well, I hate both those things, so I just put them all together.
Cribbage is great.
I don't know.
I like cribbage.
I just envision old people playing them. I can't get over
No
that.
wonder I love it.
Why don't we play cribbage?
So we have
My mom and I played losers cribbage once. It was amazing. Whoever got to 121 first lost. So we're just throwing pairs of 5s in each other's cribs. It was amazing. You're like, 19, fuck yeah! It was actually super fun. If you and Katie actually ever play cribbage together,
Katie doesn't like it.
we'll play it sometime. It was legitimately hilariously fun to play losers cribbage.
It's something I used to play when I went camping.
Do we have some zappies from the chat?
Has anybody tried the Batman Minis game? I think that's a universal no.
No.
So
I know it's like the Marvel game. I've heard it's extraordinarily fun, but I have not played it, and I would need it probably another day in the week to play it. I know Chris Green is into those Marvel games, and they've played them, and some of those guys might have it, but I've not played it. But I've heard positive things.
Yeah, that's about all.
Yeah, I've heard good things, but I've never played it.
And then the last one is, who is the most terrible person that you like or look up to cannot be a member of the podcast?
Well, we don't like anyone.
Katie doesn't come to the podcast anymore. Does she count?
That's still going to be one of my favorite anecdotes ever, was that guy at War Machine Weekend.
What?
Because
I
we always talk
probably
about
know
how
it.
Katie was the worst. Like, as a human being, she was the worst of all of us. And he came up to me like on Friday at War Machine Week and goes, "I don't know what you guys always say about Katie." And then he wandered off and he's like, "Oh, look, it's Katie." And he went and talked to her. And like 10 minutes later, he came back and he's like, "Oh, okay, I get it."
And that was DC.
Oh god, DC. Oh, DC.
She's a good aunt. That will all. I will. In my darkest days, that will always cheer me up just a little bit. But I don't. That's a good question.
All right, well, if I rule out Katie,
but she's a great example.
she has a great answer though.
I mean, like, what's a terrible person? Because there's always, like, if you go back enough in history, there's the product of its time, right? Like Jefferson owned slaves or whatever.
Sure.
Jeffrey Dahmer? No.
You liked Jeffrey Dahmer?
He looks up to him.
Freddy Krueger for Brian.
Ed Gein.
We just stop naming Wisconsin serial killers.
Excuse you, Ed Gein was a grave robber.
He was a grave robber. Yes.
Oh, that makes it all better now.
All right, stop messing with Wisconsin's weirdos.
Well, I could run out of
Yeah,
time
look
on
up
that.
Wisconsin death trip.
McCarthyism. Yeah.
We had some problems in the States.
Arctic Circle says that Katie counts, so Jeremy got his.
I got mine. I win.
Yeah.
I'm winning the game.
Norman Bates.
Like, you know who I like? An actor was Jeffrey Jones, played Principal Rooney in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
He has
an issue.
Yep.
But like, I like him in Ravenous. Like, I always like him in
What's
movies.
his issue?
With the
Child porn?
child porn.
Who was that? Wait, who?
Principal Rooney from Ferris
Rooney.
Bueller's
Oh,
Day
he
Off.
was. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, you
with-
get a creepy vibe off of him in Ferris Bueller.
I hate to ask this, but
that's-
child porn, there's a range.
He never. I don't know. It was not like 16-year-old. No.
It's all bad, but there's like ooh, and there's the terrible, and that was bad.
Yeah.
There's levels. It gets worse. It
It's-
magnifies per age under 18.
It's
so
an
I don't-
ew to
Yeah.
public stoning.
Yeah.
I do not know the exact age. I don't like.
Was it?
I'm not going to excuse ephebophilia versus pedophilia. We're not going to go down that route.
Was it?
like, were they
Was it
12?
Super
Oh,
8
God.
problems where it was like you thought she looked 18, but she wasn't?
I don't know the details. I do know that it was only,
It's within the last couple of years.
It was double-digit years ago now. It was
Was
turn
it?
of the century-ish.
I thought something came up of that recently, too.
I don't know if he relapsed, but I do know that it was media, not actual interaction with children.
Okay.
So not that, I mean, that's still horrible. But the point is,
better.
he's not a hero of mine, but if you're pushing me to pick someone who's objectively terrible, here's a guy who likes child porn, and I kind of like him as an actor.
Well, if actors is easy because I can say like Tom Cruise. I love his acting performance. He's a terrible human being.
Oh, sure, because he's a member of a cult that murders
Yeah.
people.
But I mean, exactly. But he makes good films.
And he runs so well.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy with actors. I mean, sadly, actors are celebrities. I mean, or even sports heroes. You can pick all sorts of people. It's easy, I guess. Is that a bad thing that you can pick?
Rommel, I really liked Rommel, but is he a terrible person? I mean, because
I've got one.
he was anti-Nazi. I mean, sure, he really killed a lot of Allied troopers by being really good at his job, but he wasn't a Nazi. So.
Sherman of Sherman's March to the Sea fame.
Yeah, he sure did. Was a monster.
He was a monster that I admire from a military perspective.
Yeah, so that's similar to the Rommel thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I was, when you were talking about Rommel.
Patton.
Fucking Patton.
Yeah.
Heck, he was even on the good side.
Yeah.
I guess Sherman was on the good
Sherman
side
was on
too.
the good side. He,
But-
he won, so he gets to be a good guy.
Patton sure did like to beat the shit out of people in military hospitals. You're scared? Punch, punch.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention Sherman.
Yeah.
Was one of those. Yeah.
Grumble?
Yeah, Grumble.
Jason Voorhees?
You're not real.
Is he? Are you sure?
I was
real
so
in
sad
Brian's
when I
heart.
found that out about Jeffrey Jones.
Yeah. No,
You're never
Who's
happy
one that was recently,
whenever a celebrity that you like, you're like, oh, child porn, huh? Damn it. It's hard to really
straight
come,
up.
it's like child porn and rape. It's like those are things it's hard to come
Yup.
back from.
Yep.
Puddin'? The original, the guy who basically ended up creating Elmo. I feel it's not really a bad situation in full sense.
I
'Cause he's-
wasn't like
he
nothing
was-
ever proven, and even the people who were accusing him were like, high school age, not child age, and
Correct.
stuff. So that's yeah.
Well, like Subway guy, Jared.
No, well,
No,
this-
Jared was different.
Jared was way worse. Jared
Yeah.
literally asks a woman, "Which of your children would you rather I have sex with?"
Yeah.
Like so that
He was an inspiration to a lot of fat guys.
yeah.
He's like, you too can if
Yeah.
you lose some weight and get all the kids you want.
Oh wait, he says they never had to be real people. Oh man, I could have picked all Zoltan Cool. Zoltan Cool did nothing wrong. To go back to Diablo 3 talk, Zoltan Cool did nothing wrong. Ever.
Yeah, fictional as a whole. And then I'm sticking with Jason.
Yeah.
Well, there's other good ones too, but there's a lot of good villains.
Zoltan Cool.
Oh God, this is gonna be a record.
All right,
This
so
is
should we-
definitely a
I
record.
blame me. Well, I blame Proxypalooza.
I blamed Souls.
Yeah, I blame Souls. We all blame
Souls did add at least 50% of the problems.
So in 2002, Jones was arrested and charged with possession of child pornography and solicitation of a minor to pose for nude
solicitation also. Damn it, Jones.
for
Never
nude
mind. That's,
photographs.
too
That's a
far.
harder one.
That's too far.
He
That's
pleaded
what she
no
said.
contest to a felony charge, was ordered to register as a sex offender.
And someone on our forum said it was 16 was the start age
For Elmo. And that's, I mean, not to go down this slippery slope, but like that is the it's different in Europe kind of age range.
What state
Like,
was he in? Was it
Most
South
states
Carolina?
that is like Wisconsin 16's okay. Like that's what's so weird about this shit.
16's okay if the other partner is around that age bracket.
Yeah, they have to be like under 21 or something.
Correct.
Whatever. The point is, it's so nebulous at that point.
just
but
crossed the
whatever.
line.
I look under 21, right?
See this card? This card proves that I can.
Oh my god! Don't put that shit in your movie. Fucking Michael Bay.
Recommendations.
Role player.
I recommend Andy play role player.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not.
You would love it. And it's a good game. and those are usually
probably-
mutually exclusive.
That's right. He won't play. That's the thing. Like, fucking Komet that I've been bugging him about, he bought the game. It was his game. He brought it one time. He's like, all right, guys, it's my game. Let's play it. We played it. We all loved it. And now he refuses to play it again.
Nobody's asked me to bring it out since then.
Yeah, that's true. I can't recall
Actually,
anybody.
recommendation. Man,
Like, I almost
that's a more
bought the
serious
expansion
recommendation
for it.
I'm stuck in.
I could use it. I need it.
Yeah,
What's
so
your
it can also not get
what's
played.
your recommendation, Andy?
No, I need the expansion for Komet.
Oh,
So I was on the Something Awful forums for old PC games, and they're talking about, like wizardry and shit like that, and we were talking about Legend of Grimrock, which is a game that Brian showed me, and everybody was talking about, because I played Grimrock, and Grimrock was a lot of fun, but I kind of stalled out halfway through it, and I was talking about that in that thread, and they mentioned, all of them said the same thing, which is that Grimrock was fun, and most of them stalled out half to two-thirds of the way through it, but that Grimrock 2 was a fucking masterpiece, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go home and I'll buy Grimrock 2, and then it wouldn't let me buy it, and it was because I had already bought it 2 years ago and just never played it, because that's how Steam and I roll.
yeah, that's fair.
So I played it, and Legend of Grimrock 2, really fucking good.
Because that's the one where the final. There's a lot, it's a dungeon crawler where you kind of run around.
Yeah, the party, like, it's, it's square-based.
Yeah,
with
that
the
was fun.
rotation, yeah.
I only played the first. I think
The second one is like strictly better. It's more open instead of like the hallways. You're like on an island. It's not as tight with like the food, because in the first one you actually had like a master timer. You could lose the game by running out of food and starving to death, and so you always had to be pushing at a certain. You couldn't kind of like dick around and explore, because you never knew how much more food was coming.
Right.
So you never knew if it was okay to tarry.
Sure.
And Grimrock 2 is a lot more forgiving, so you can kind of relax a little more. But it's fun. It's old school play style, but it's real time but turn based ish. It's good. It's fun.
Interesting.
I can't believe Brian recommended that to you.
He didn't. The first one he was playing one day when I came over to your guys' place when you lived together, like
Wow, that was a while ago.
on Keswick.
That's a fun game.
Yeah. Because it has new school graphics.
Oh, okay, that's why.
It's
okay.
like a 1992 first-person game, but with new fancy schmancy graphics. So Brian was okay with it.
Which
he doesn't
is-
mind old gameplay. He minds old graphics.
Actually, which is true, but I've said this before, but I think the real barrier is the older game's interface more than the graphics. I'm actually more forgiving about graphics. I've matured, but the interface I can't forgive on some
Here's
of
a
those
great
games.
thing about Grimrock is they have an option called Classic Mode,
Sure.
which turns off the mini-map,
Okay.
and the game comes with a printable PDF that's just a sheet of graph paper, so you can play like you would have played in 1992, where you have to draw the map on graph paper because the
kinda
game
cool.
didn't come with it.
No,
That's kind of cool.
I
I
don't.
actually sadly kind of miss that.
Well, dude, seriously, if you ever liked those games, Grimrock and Grimrock 2
So
are,
is it
like, are really good.
It's kind of like a Baldur's Gate style.
It's not a top. It's first person. It's,
Okay.
where like you press
Oh.
forward and you go one square down the hallway.
Yeah,
and
Wolfenstein?
you're taking damage, and you press right and you rotate 90 degrees, and there's another hallway and there's an enemy there.
Oh.
Like the mazes in GoGo 13 for the Nintendo.
No, I'm thinking
or-
mazes like in Phantasy Star.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Back in the old.
It's that style, one square per time, except you're a party of four, and like the people in back can shoot and can stab, but the people in front
Sure.
take the damage, and then like when people flank you, they hit those two. But it's real time, so it's good. It's classic style, and the second one's, I mean, I don't know what the prices are, but if you're on a budget, it's probably like $10 and $30. So the first one's good enough that you should plunk down $10, but you'll probably want to get the second one.
I'm actually going to recommend a TV show called The Mick. It's got D.
It's got
from,
Sweet D.
Sweet D in it from Always Sunny. It's a funny show. It's season 1. It's just she takes care. She's a slobby person. It's kind of like Uncle Buck, but with a female cast is really what it is. I mean, honestly, the parents get like thrown and flee the country for like
Aunt Buck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Aunt Buck. Basically, it's just really fun. It's ridiculous. It's got a great supporting cast. It's just your dumb half-an-hour comedy hour show, so it's not going to blow your mind. It's not as good as last year's show with what's his name. And the one guy,
Grinder.
The Grinder.
Oh,
the Grinder.
Grinder.
The Grinder is still the greatest one-season show that's been out in years. But the
Grinder
Mick
was very good.
The Mick is pretty hilarious, and it's pretty fun to watch. And sometimes the show doesn't always have like a lesson that's good. Sometimes it's like shit just happened because it happened. It really crosses lines sometimes on appropriateness. So it's pretty good for regular TV.
I always like her. She's good.
Yeah, she's great in the Mick. She really nails it as far as just nonsense. That's all I got for that.
Yeah, I don't really have any recommendations.
Oh no! Just go play
You're
Role Player.
recommending Robot, the Bollywood action film that's available on Netflix now? I agree with that recommendation. That movie's amazing.
I tried to get some folks to watch that the other day, and then actually no, it was just Jim. We were here.
Oh, you're trying to get Jim to watch Bollywood?
No.
That's an
The
experiment.
robot makes
We
like
were-
100 copies of itself, and they
Form a
hold
snake.
hands to like form shapes, and like they hold hands to make a wall and just swivel and just like smash a building, and then they like grab each other and they form a snake, and the snake has two of them just going like this as its giant fangs, and it's like biting cars with the giant snake
I don't
made
think I
out of wood.
trust your suggestions because Andy keeps saying you two want to go see a Judge show in Chicago, and I don't understand any of it.
I want to go see Judge Mathis.
Oh God.
Judge Mathis is actually good. I like him in the People's Court. Judge Marilyn Minajana are my two
I can't
favorites.
see going to Chicago and
Not Judge Joe Brown. That guy's boring as shit.
well, obviously not
Obviously,
that guy.
that's ridiculous.
He's like your uncle who's drunk after Thanksgiving dinner, so he's half asleep from tryptophan and half asleep from drunkenness, so he's all the way asleep, but somehow he's still talking to you. That's Judge Joe Brown.
Our podcast isn't that long, is it? Oh, it's midnight.
It's pretty long. I'm getting,
Yeah,
I'm
usually-
getting tired. I came over here right after like ultimate or after frisbee golf.
Good times.
So yeah, Andy recommends Robot.
No, I don't.
Did you see the clip with him with all the guns? Come on, man.
Yeah,
the guns.
I did see the clip. But like I said, as I was watching shows, I think it was with Jeff and Jim, and we ran out of stuff to watch because we didn't want to start anything new. And I'm like, Nathan mentioned robots. We should go look at this thing. We watch a trailer and he's like, no.
The trailer didn't sell him on it?
No.
The fucking snake, man.
I'm surprised Jim just didn't leave at the trailer.
It was pretty much
You,
near
Jeff,
the end
and
of the
Jim
day.
trying to pick a movie that has
He
to be
loved
like a
Speed
sitcom.
Racer so much, and he didn't like the giant snake robot.
There's a
dumbass.
fine line in the sand.
No,
between
Speed Racer is not in the same vein as Robot.
Yeah,
Not.
because it's not as good.
Oh,
Yeah.
get out of my house.
It's no Fifth Element. Someone just Fifth Element yesterday almost punched him.
I am excited for that new movie, though.
Fifth Element 2.
And actually, my recommendation is The Fate of the Furious.
I enjoyed that movie.
That movie was legitimately fun. I do want to try to take somebody who's never seen any of the Furious movies
So
to
remember, I
bookend
wasn't
them.
sure if I'd seen 7.
Yeah.
Turns out I hadn't seen 6 either.
He ranked it 6 and 7 the other day.
What the hell?
So I went home and I was like, oh man, so many things make so much more sense now. Oh,
haven't
look,
seen
it's
any
like
of them.
bad guys I didn't know.
Watching those movies brings inner peace.
It's very
love 'em.
enjoyable. They
I
really
want to
are.
bookend somebody with them because, like, I had a friend who's never seen Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I had him bookend Encounter at Farpoint, and immediately went to All Good Things. And I thought that was kind of a neat way to start the show because you know the beginning and the end, and they all tie together
They tie
really
together. They did
well.
a
Well, we
really
still
good
need
job.
two. Well, there's still be like 2 or 3 more Fate and Furious movies.
Yeah, they're not
Correct,
done yet.
but I want to bookend.
Did
That
you
first
say
one-
23 more?
2 or 3 more.
I think you mean 23 more.
No, 2 or 3 for sure. Coming.
23.
I'm fine with that. I wish they would combine. I want a crossover of Fast and the Furious and Pitch Perfect.
Andy's angry face.
So,
true.
as I said, I want to take the Fast and the Furious, which is kind of like a crime drama film. That's really what it is.
It's
the
about
first one?
It's
Yeah.
about family.
No, it's not. It's
I
just
always
a
thought it was a lot like the Keanu Reeves movie where he's
it's like Point Break.
It's like Point Break,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
first one.
It's Point Break, but with race cars.
but well done.
Well, kind yeah, okay.
The remake
let's
of Point
not-
Break, the remake of
but-
Point Break was atrocious.
But I want to see somebody watch that movie and then immediately watch Fast 8 and then have them try to fill in between, like what happens. Because those movies are suddenly, you have
You're
these
like,
random street racers in LA are now suddenly secret agents.
I think it would be better to watch 1 and 2 and then 8 because having just watched 6 and 7, and then Katie recently watched the Everything Wrong with 2, and I was like, how the hell did Tej go from a mechanic to a hacker? He's like a fro wearing mechanic who doesn't even understand digital cars in 2. Mm-hmm. He only works with mechanical systems.
The fun thing
and now
is-
he's a fucking CIA
The
hacker.
one thing people always argue which is worse, number 2 and number 3. I think number 3 is brilliant. I think number 2 is a bad one, but some
Number
people
2 is
hate number
terrible.
3.
Number 2 is horrible.
Number
yeah.
2 is the
I'm
one.
not saying 3 is the best, but
3
2
is-
is terrible.
Nathan, you have missed out. Pitch Perfect movies are amazing.
I've seen like 3 of the trailers, and I saw like 10 seconds of some people dragging a safe. And that's the
would be
entirety.
5.
I
You've
have
just-
about.
so you haven't seen any of the Fast and
I've
Furious?
seen like 3 trailers, and I've seen 10 seconds of people dragging
So-
a safe.
so-
None of this is an exaggeration.
as part of
I
our
may
crew.
not have even seen 3 trailers. I've seen the newest one. I think I saw the Tokyo one.
Okay.
You're missing
Trailer.
so much.
Only
Okay,
again.
so as part of our thing that we're going to be doing with Keith and Quimby, we're going to have them watch all the Star Trek movies,
Yep.
all the original cast Star Trek
You're going to
movies.
start with 1?
Yep, we're going to start
those
with
poor
1 going up to
souls.
One
6.
is a great film if you don't mind 4-hour-long boring piles of shit. It's really interesting if you know it's
If you
4
know
hours
it's a-
long and boring.
But then you go to 2 and you're like, how are these the same franchise?
Well, because they
You
really,
have 2
really
and
wanted
6 for the
that.
same director.
I know.
They
I
wanted
love
the
6 so
6
much.
is good too.
they wanted that 2001 feel, and that's
Well,
that's
they
what
got
they
it.
really got out of
They
that
got
first
it.
one.
Oh my god.
But
not
then,
a feel I would
so
want.
immediately after that, we need to do the Fast and the Furious with you, and go through them all, and somehow con Keith to showing up for Fast and Furious 3 because he believes that movie is horrible.
Fast and the Furious. I'm just going to tell you this in advance, Nate, since they're going to do this to you.
They drive
I want
cars.
I want you to play a drinking game.
Oh,
Take a
yes.
shot every time they do something with a car that's physically impossible.
Every time Vin Diesel says family,
Every time they use the word family or a car does something impossible,
You're
you
gonna
drink.
be fucking dead at 7 and 8, 6, 7, and 8,
Is this
especially
like, is
7.
this like the John Wick drinking game where you
Yes.
drink every time you
Kill
shoot
someone.
somebody or reloads?
Yes, it's exactly like that.
7 especially, you're gonna be in a coma because you saw 8 without seeing 7.
I did.
Oh my god.
I don't know how I would rate those films favorite to not least favorite, but man, 5 and 7,
5 is
But
right
4
up
is
there.
so
five
good.
Is 5 is one of my favorites.
So you talk about that the car with the safe. When you see that
That's
in a
5.
trailer, you think, man, that'll happen for like a minute, and then
No,
it's like a
it's like a half hour.
15-minute long just
It's
amazement.
ridiculous.
It's
After
so-
that whole scene, you'll just be drinking.
Yeah, we'll make it a drinking day. We'll do it on a Saturday.
We'll call
So you
911
can
beforehand. Just get out over
on
here.
Sunday.
Oh yeah, and every time they mention a Corona, you have to take a sip of Corona. So you have to buy like a 25-pack of Corona as well.
I didn't think they have Corona in 8.
They definitely do in 6 and 7 a lot.
Yeah, because I think they mentioned sometime in there. It's like I thought you were a Corona man. He's like, no, I changed or something like that.
Well, because there's
In
a whole
8.
thing in 7 where the guys, the Mr. Nobody's trying to get him changed.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Oh, I'm sorry. Was I yawning?
Brilliant films.
I am not driving back from Menominee Falls to watch these movies.
Oh, you got a job?
Is that set?
I know that's not said yet. I'm just being hypothetical.
Oh.
Do
You
you
have to.
have a thing set?
I
for
have
that?
no idea.
So they're taking the fast road. On that,
How
huh?
can I
Yeah.
sabotage this?
Listen, all y'all.
just drop off a copy of our podcast with any of his managers.
During the interview, ask him about pre-measuring and proxy bases. Tell him you think it's foolish and see what happens. Like, who the fuck are you? Why are you talking to me?
All right.
right.
So I think we should probably call it.
Yeah, it was good to quote unquote see everyone.
Katie's still not back, I take it.
She'll be back tomorrow night. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to stop it now.
Bye, everybody. Enjoy the Buseys.